So, and I put these on because if I don't, then when I look at the camera, I can't see the
This
right.
is cool, man. This is awesome, man. I like
But
how the duct work. That's awesome. They did a good
well,
job in here,
I
man.
mean, it's got some blemishes, but I really love it.
Dude, this
I
is
love the
awesome. They did,
space,
man.
and I'm not a handy dude, but I made this out of a door.
Did you? What's cool, man?
It was framed and sitting behind my furnace for 10 years.
I think it's
I
awesome.
pulled all the 2x4s and made the legs and all the support for it and stained it. And I was like, oh,
Dude, it's
I
awesome.
can build shit.
I remember that growing up all my life.
Right?
I remember that.
Yeah, that was the primary piece. I was like, I need real walls so that can be hanging.
That is awesome, dude. That is. It's so funny you said sound peaches because my kids are always like, I don't know what it is because my kids are getting older and I'm kind of midlife crisis. I'm like, all of a sudden I'm having fun. I'm like, oh man, I remember doing that. And,
Right? Yeah.
and so.
So anyway, I don't need these once I do that, unless we got to look at something. But this is episode 17, Badass Records, Dave Tschirhart. Am I saying it right?
Yes, Tschirhart. Yep.
Like cheer
Cheer
and heart. How's it going?
Good, man. Good, man. Excited. Very excited about this, man. It's like one of my most favorite hobbies.
Right. So I'm 93. What were you?
92.
You were 92. Okay. And you were there all 4 years.
I didn't go to East, so I was at
That's
Linder
right.
and Indian Hills, and
Okay.
then I went to East for like 1 month, and then we moved. So
From where to where?
I went out to Blue Valley. I was at Blue Valley North, so I was the first class all 4 years to Blue Valley North.
Okay.
But I hung.
Like the school didn't exist before that?
Yeah, there was a couple years before me, but it was kind of a Blue Valley North was kind of weird back then because nobody wanted to be there. So and they kept forcing kids from Blue Valley to fill it, and it was. It didn't have the camaraderie like we grew up with, everybody's older brothers. I mean, it's just
Right.
And matter of fact, I think I dated one girl from there. Everybody else is either from. I'd go back to East parties. I mean, that's where I grew up. I mean,
Yeah. So, and you've been in Blue Valley ever since? Is that where you are now?
I lived so then I moved, went to K-State, and
Okay.
then my ex-wife approached me. Their family had the oldest tree company in Kansas City, one of the first ones, and said, "Hey," I knew I wasn't crazy about being a vet in school. I didn't want to do it anymore. And
But that's where K-State's where you go for that, right?
Yeah. So I said, "Hey, man, I love outdoor work. I worked at the pool companies here in town. So started doing it and got into doing that, and then lived in Waldo for 17 years.
Oh, that's right. We were just talking about the Waldo. Where were the crossroads? 80.
81st and Summit.
Okay.
So right there, lived there, and then
My three younger sisters. One's in Chicago. Two of them are right over there. The one with whose dog is up there is at 79th and Madison.
yeah.
And then the other one's at 82nd and Jarbo.
What was killer is Minor lived down the street from me.
Okay.
And this is back before you could really track people down because you didn't have cell phones, whatever. So it was hard
Right.
to get people's numbers, and
Yeah.
she went to their parents.
Right.
And then Brent Taylor's sister, the baby Bethany, who last time I saw her, she was in diapers, was living in the corner house. I didn't even know that's who that was.
Oh, weird.
I know, until Brent told me one day, and I saw her. I'm like, wait a minute, you're Bethany? And it's because she was a lot younger than us.
Right. Did
everybody
they have,
was over there.
Did they have four, the Taylors?
There's three. There's Scott, Brent, and Bethany.
No, you're forgetting Gene.
Oh, there was Gene. I'm sorry, Gene was oldest. Yeah, you're right. Gene was the oldest. Yes.
No, Gene's 3 years younger than me.
Gene was?
Yeah, she was buddies with my sister.
I thought Gene was. I never met Gene.
Okay.
Now
Weird that you didn't meet Gene, but you met Bethany.
Bethany I only met a few years ago.
Oh, right.
But like I said, Bethany was literally a baby when I saw her.
But they had a place in PV, like over by St. Anne's.
Sid is still there. I still go by and do their tree work. I still see him.
To me, like, I don't know. 6 people in one of those little PV houses.
Sid still has the Volkswagen Bug in the garage.
No way.
And he still has that Toyota Land Cruiser, that 1960s, 70s that he spray paints. He still drives it sitting in his driveway.
Wow.
And
what about is the mom?
Bethany, or I'm not sorry, Wendy, Miss Taylor, she just retired as the art teacher for Blender last year.
Wow. But they're not together anymore?
Oh, no, they're still together.
Oh.
No, they still do great.
But he still has the house?
They still have the house, yes.
But they don't live there?
No, they still live there.
Oh, okay.
No, they still live to this day. Because, matter of fact, Brent will come to town. I've been over there. I do their tree work, and then I go see Sid. When I'm bidding, I'll stop by and see him. I just got one of Brent's dogs, his puppies.
Okay.
Which I'm kind of excited. It's Michael Keaton, the actor's dog's grand puppy. So it's like
funny.
Batman's grand dog. So
what, like Brent had a litter.
Llewellyn, yeah, he breeds Llewellyn setters. So, and then we just had lunch with it was me, Miner, Scott, and Brent. We're both in town.
Okay.
About a
Poor?
month and a half ago. No, poor. I just went and bid his stepdad's tree work.
Okay.
I just talked to him.
Oh, Scott and Brent. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Scott Taylor. Yeah. Who I went hunting with him in Montana 3 years ago. That was the first time I'd seen Scott since high school.
They both live up there?
Scott lives in Idaho, I think. He's a doctor.
Okay.
And then Brent lives in Montana. And then they both have a farm in Chile, the country.
Right.
Where they both own it, are partners.
Chile.
They live down there, and so I see him. I see him quite a bit. Matter of fact, I'm getting ready to go hunt with Brent this
Okay.
October.
So, like, the other day, you were telling me this story about being hunting with him, and he left you somewhere?
Oh, my God. So Brent always wanders. That's just Brent. And it was hilarious. And
in life, sure, but when you're out somewhere,
it was a little freaky because I didn't know if he'd been hurt or something. So,
right,
because you're up in the mountains, which you're taking back, it's just beautiful. I mean, you see old settlements that are just stone foundations. Cool. I mean, it is the most beautiful place in the world I've ever been. And, it's 2 a.m. I don't know where.
It was dark?
Yeah, we're at 2 a.m. And last time I saw him was 5 a.m. And he just said, sorry, I got distracted, and not lost, just distracted because he's been up there a million times. Thank God Scott shows up to go hunt with us, and Scott brings goats with him to pack out the meat, and they follow him around. And so I hunted the next day with Scott because he wanted me to go with him. So I ran with Scott, and Brent went on his own, and it was funny because
weren't you scared? Like, were you lost without?
No, I was at the campsite. I came back and went to the campsite.
I thought you guys were like trekking, and he just pieced out.
No,
okay.
we wanted to go separate ways that day and kind of go off. When he asked, I said that's cool, and I said he goes, let's meet up and go look at the. There's a cliff where the planes hit, and I guess you can't retrieve body. I mean, they're just down there, and the mountain goats are up there, and I wanted to see mountain goats, and he's going to show me some of the crashes, and then that's why I headed back to camp early. Plane crashes, where they collide into the mountains, and like you can't retrieve bodies.
How often does that happen?
I don't think very often.
This is Montana?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like irretrievable when stuff goes down there. So he was going to show me the stuff. And Brent found that spot it's part of the international trail that goes east to west and north to south. Some trail.
Okay.
Goes across the country. And Brent would take summers off in between semesters at KU and hitchhike and ride his bike across that trail. That's how he found the spot. That's how he found it where he wanted to live in Montana.
Okay. And sounds pretty Brent.
It is very. My most favorite part was, I'll just say this real quick, it's hilarious, was Brent for some reason decided to plant spruce trees up there in the camping spot. Scott brought those goats, and those goats kept eating spruce. And Scott's like, I don't even know why you care that you just, those two bickering reminded me of the old days because it's just hilarious.
How you have this knack for identifying trees properly?
Yes,
by their name.
Sometimes.
All the time with me. You're like, are you talking about your maple? I'm like, the one on the left. How often do people they're like, yeah, the maple?
It's like when people always want to shoot me a picture, and I'm like, let me go see it first. And I mean, there's sometimes one of my best friends is one of the head guys at Ryan Tree. Man, he's like, I call him the Yoda of trees. Man, that guy can do scientific name on you, and he can just, I love him. He's the best. He's my encyclopedia. And I'm like, hey man, what is this? I'm like drawing a blank. The bark's this, the leaves are this, and man. He's awesome. So, I mean, he's next level. I can do pretty much, I'd say 93, 94% of them, not a problem. So,
but with your customers, when you refer to them by their proper name, do they typically know, or is it a mix, or do they?
It's hard sometimes. The ones that kind of drive you crazy are the all the plant people, the flower people that have that degree that are
botanists.
Not botanists. It's oh my God, where they're gardeners, they're master gardeners.
Okay.
Those are the ones that drive you crazy because they bring in stuff that doesn't belong here, and you don't normally see it, and you start really stretching your imagination. And usually I kind of stay away from that stuff because it's like it doesn't really belong here, so it's not. You don't really know the care and the maintenance of it. I can research it, but it's like, there's a reason why they don't belong here,
So I don't even the bushes that I have out front.
Burning bushes, yeah.
What are they called?
Burning bushes.
Burning.
Yep.
Like,
they get a burning red color in the fall that makes it look like they're on fire.
Like Three Amigos?
Yes.
The burning bush?
Yes.
So the one, I think it's been 2 or 3 years ago now, like died because it started turning all yellow, and you came out and you were like, oh yeah, there's this insect that doesn't belong here, and it'll
That's the boxwoods. That's the boxwoods.
box. Okay.
Yeah, the boxwoods are the ones that have the really tiny leaf.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the ones that I can't remember what nursery brought them in, but they brought in a shipment from the north of the United States where they're having problems with a gnat that's eating the leaf, and that's why they always tell you don't bring stuff, and that's what happens. That's how it gets cross contaminated.
But how do you learn? Like, how do you learn? How do you keep up with stuff?
Well, that is, I've learned in life, keep everybody friends, even with different companies or competitions. It's always good to have good competition. It keeps your level high. And I have friends, and we all talk to each other. And it was the Ryan guys who reached out to me and said, hey, we started talking about something else. And we're like, hey, have you seen this bug? One of our guys found it. And I'm like, finally, because we thought it was because the leaf wasn't being cut properly by cutters. And sometimes that'll happen on boxwoods. It won't cut the leaf right, and it kills it, and that's you get those little spots on there if your blades aren't sharp. So we found out it was the bug doing it, and not just all of a sudden, because a lot of people were trimming them properly. It's just it's perplexing, and like this bug's not supposed to be here. So how do you know? And I mean that's like emerald ash borer was here for 2 years. We kept trying to say it was emerald ash borer, that nasty borer that's been killing the ash trees.
Like like a hog.
Like a wood boring insect.
Oh,
so
gotcha,
we called them boars.
Gotcha.
It bore inside the trunk.
And it came from where?
It started around in Michigan is where it came from, and
now it's around here, and it's not supposed to be.
No, it started. They start telling us late '90s. Early '90s. They start telling us stop planting ash trees in the area. It's coming, and sure enough, I think it was like 5-6 years ago we found it. Matter of fact, one of our fellow tree companies, he found it because he's, some guys just, hey, tree's dead and we take it down. Some of us are geeks and like to see what caused it and, to help you out.
Yeah.
And he did that. And all of a sudden, everybody was getting ready to have a conference in St. Louis because that's where we're supposed to hit next. And all of a sudden they all rushed to Kansas City and we had to have an emergency meeting and quarantine everything. It was a big deal. So
there are conferences and trainings or
there are trainings and conferences and
do you go to them? Or
I used to. Some I'm a little upset about because guys go to it, get their certifications, and then do everything that's against the certifications. And until these groups start enforcing the rules to punish them for doing this, because it's kind of a slap in our faces. I'm old and I'm stubborn, and I'm just like enough, and it's kind of defeats the purpose of having the certification. So, but I can call any friend and say, hey, what do you think? What do you see? And it's nice to have that.
Yeah,
I've learned a long time ago have that friendship. It's worth it.
So your outfit is Blue Valley
Tree and Outdoors, yes.
Blue Valley Tree and Outdoors.
And it was Seiler and Son Tree Surgeons, and that was started in 1942 by my children's great-grandfather.
Okay, so somebody approached you and said, are you interested? And you said, yeah, I like working.
My ex-wife did and her dad. And because back in the day, you would go and get halfway house people for your help. And they're...
To trim trees?
Some to trim trees and some to do groundwork. And let me tell you, I never had more fun in my life learning what they're interested for because it was fun. There were some that I told them, I said, no, you can't have them on the crew. They did some bad touching to kids and they got to go. And then there were some that just drugs or drinking or just, habitual users.
Here, get up in a tree with this chainsaw. And
I learned from my guy who trained a lot of people here in town. He came from, oh my God, where he was on the East Coast. Can't think of it right now. He would come down with an old red cane, and he would come down in the winters to get work around here. And he finally stayed. Met a girl, and he trained us. And the way he trained us, it was a little different than the way he trained now. But it was basically follow him up the trunk with your spurs on, and he'd tease you halfway up. He'd smoke a cigarette and goes, "Hey, what do you think we look like when you splatter?" And I mean, just that's how you train. and it's.
Do you get up there much?
Oh yeah, I still get up there.
Really?
Oh yeah.
You don't feel like, I don't know, more nervous or protected?
No, but I mean, you always have a little bit of fear when you're up there, and if you don't, and these guys who say they don't are lying, because that kind of is the rush that drives you.
Right.
It's kind of a cool rush.
Yeah.
I will say this, and most guys are like this, when you haven't done much over the winter, and all of a sudden you start getting the spring again, it takes you a minute to get your jive going back on.
Sure.
And once your groove gets on, you don't. But now they got so much different equipment now, and I mean, manually climbing a tree versus being up in a bucket truck's two different things, and it's a whole. Now you got cranes bringing stuff in. You got to ride the crane. It's all different sensations and stuff like that. But man, I love that rush. I can't get rid of that rush. It's just fun.
Have you ever had a scary fall yourself, or something land on you?
I slipped and I went down the trunk and I held on and I got bark burn and it hurt, but I hung on for my life. But I've never really had. I've always been pretty safe.
Sure. Sure.
Some of the guys I've seen guys get electrocuted and get killed around this area. Oh yeah, the last one was at Tower Park.
That's right down the street.
Yeah, he was up there for a while, and it was indirect contact where
up there for like it took them a minute to get him down, or
you have to do an investigation. You shut the site down. You call everybody.
Whoa.
OSHA has to come out. I mean, you're up there. Your family has to be called, and I mean, you're up there. And
meanwhile, dead guy in a tree.
Oh, you're fried. You're done. He died. I remember the last one died
so you
indirect.
You could get electrocuted and not fall out of the tree.
Oh yeah, what you do is that was indirect contact. So what that is, he was on a limb that touched the power line. It surged, went through the limb, went through him, and basically you can't move. You're frozen. You're stuck, and it just gets you, and you can't move. I mean, you're dead. It has so much current running through you.
Sure, but I mean, you would think that.
Well, you're tied in. So he's tied in, so he's just hanging there with his rope.
Oh, God.
And you gotta be careful because
what a spectacle.
If that limb is still there, he could be smoking. He could be turning black from his skin burning. You gotta be careful what you do because that tree could be electrified, so you can't go rescue him. I mean, you gotta watch what you're doing. A lot of us back in the 90s took Casey Pinnell gave away free classes.
Oh, that's cool.
Through BPU. And we got electrical certified, which is cool. It's taught me a lot. So
is that a thing you have to like renew every?
No, it's just a one-time thing. But we're having troubles with it right now because all the old boys are retired and they remember everybody getting killed. We have this new generation coming along who don't know their own rules and regulations, and so a lot of us are calling to find, hey, can you find a foreman? And we're all trying to help each other out, and we're all walking away from the jobs right now. So
that's crazy.
Well, we've all seen people get killed. We don't want to get it. I'm not putting my guys at risk.
Right.
If my rule has always been, if I won't do it myself, you're not going to do it.
Right. So somebody hits you up and says, I have a job, and you go and you're like, nah.
I'll look at it and I'll be like, okay, this is what we got to do. It kind of sucks now because they don't work with us anymore. They cut us out and go straight to the homeowner, so it gets them all confused because I know what I'm talking about and the poor homeowner doesn't. But It makes it worse. They're doing it on purpose. And so I have to tell them what to say. I write up, this is what you need to say. They'll come out and do a free service, Ashland or Wright, whichever one it is in the area. Sometimes they'll leave it on the ground, we'll clean it up, and then we'll come take over the rest of it. So it's called make safe, either trimming or make safe removal. Okay.
So if somebody wants to hit you guys up, do you pull up on a Google search?
No, I look at it and say, here it is.
No, but I mean, does your company pull, if somebody Googles Blue Valley Tree, does it bam?
Yes, we're getting ready to do our website too.
Okay.
And I will be honest with you, you gave me an idea on, I want to start doing live interviews where I'd like to get their friends on there about trees and stuff and start doing more and help people. No one's done anything because if I started researching, I mean, you opened me up to this stuff where I'm looking, I'm like, so many people cut and copy and plagiarize. It's ridiculous. False certifications, false pictures. And I'm like, someone needs to go on there live and kind of explain stuff. And it also help people shop for contractors and what to look for or not, and help people. And the question you'd ask, because honestly, so many of the scum can get to you now because in the phone book days, you couldn't afford it.
Right.
Internet's free.
Yeah.
And so we're redoing our website. My family's big history in town here. I want to tell everybody about my family and let them know how I have deep Kansas City roots. I mean, huge.
Yeah. I know I've asked you this before, but who's Kevin, the plumber?
So Kevin's my cousin.
Your cousin.
So there was 13 original Tschirharts.
Okay.
So his dad was so Kevin's grandpa was my grandpa's brother.
Okay.
My grandpa was the youngest of the 13.
Okay. Oh, wow.
He was the baby. Harry Truman, like I told you, used to give him a ride to school.
Right.
My great-grandfather was the main liquor supplier for Harry Truman and the mayor and the police chief.
Wow.
And when he became president, That's when my grandfather got in trouble because he no longer had protection, and it was during Prohibition.
Right, right.
And he's on the front of the Kansas City Star. I have that picture. It's awesome on the
He
chain
he got in
gang.
trouble because why?
Distributing liquor during Prohibition.
But
It was illegal to do.
no, I know. But if you're giving it to all these people in power, can't they protect you?
A lot of them moved on. That's
Oh,
what had happened. And
okay.
I'm trying to dig more to find more.
Sure.
And he's on the front of the Kansas City Star on the chain gang, hand digging Van Horn and Brookside Boulevard. It's cool.
There has to be a cool book come out of if you do dig and
Oh, I'm trying to figure. So they did that, and then to get out of trouble. Matter of fact, Eddie, who works for me, the Catholic Church is Hispanic now, but my family has the only stained glass window that says "donated by" instead of "in memory of," because he had to do that to get out of the chain gang.
okay.
So he did that.
I'm glad you said 13. I was like, are you guys Catholic or something?
No, yeah, 13, and then so where Crown Center and Hallmark sit,
Mm-hmm.
that was my family's land. So they bought it from my family.
Whoa.
And yes, we're all asking where the money went.
Right.
But I do have a picture. I guess Hallmark made a card about it, tearing down the house, and my family went after him for that because it was kind of rude, I guess. And they go, let's parties what it says, and you see the house being destroyed. So my family had a little, because it was a 3-story, beautiful, gorgeous house.
How long ago was this house torn down?
Oh God, Lord, it was when. What, it had to
When
be
was
in
Crown
the
Center built?
30s, 40s, somewhere
Okay,
around there.
okay.
So, oh yeah. So, and then one of the brothers' wives used to run around with Walt Disney.
Oh, wow.
And had lunch with him right before he went to California.
Huh.
So I mean, it's like, I mean, it's cool. I started digging and finding all this stuff.
Yeah.
And, oh
Yeah, I
yeah.
remember we had a place at 81st and Mercer,
Mm-hmm.
just stone's throw from McGonagall's, and somehow my ex-wife's dad, I mean, he knows everyone. And we had a plumbing issue, and he had used Kevin a bunch, and so said, call this guy, and he's like, he came over and, I think it was kitchen sink into the basement
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and he was like, this is not how this should be.
Yep.
It should be like this. And he was like, he's talking about building this sort of rectangle of PVC pipe to then hit the drain. And I was like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, what? And then he's like, I'm the plumber. Why don't you? I was like, okay, all right. And then he
Kev.
did it. And then he's like, so here's why. And I was like, oh, okay.
He and I, it's funny. He and I run a business is almost similar.
Oh, wow.
But he started working when he was 14, and he still does the buildings on the plaza like nobody wants to do. It's like terrible.
Yeah.
He's getting ready to retire pretty soon, and I remember calling it because he's just like me. Because I will, even if I walk away from the job, I'll steer you in the right direction. I'll try
Sure,
to help you out. I mean, I'd rather sleep at night.
Right.
But I'll never forget this. I called a guy who money was no object, and he's like, "Hey man," and I won't say the company, but they're gonna charge me $30,000 to fix this problem. I said, "Hey man, call Kevin." Kevin walks up to him and goes, "That's a $300 fix. It's a sewer fix. I don't do it. Call my buddy over here. He does it for you." I mean,
Fuck.
it was done, and he was getting ready to pay $30,000.
Dude.
And because money's not, but that's just the way Kevin. I mean, it's like we don't need the money right away. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll get it. You can't take it with you to your grave. So I'd rather be honest with you. And
There's a dude. His name is Scott. I can't remember his last name right now. But he does HVAC, and he's in a Kiss cover band.
is he really?
Yeah.
Oh, get out of
He's,
here, man.
He and by the way, his HVAC shit is on the side. He just retired for like 30 years working at the library,
Oh, jeez.
and his boss at the library is his assistant when he does HVAC stuff. His company's called Hotter Than Hell.
Really?
Yeah. And I think he's in a couple different cover bands, but the Kiss one is his primary, and he's Gene. It's not Scott. I want to say Scott Simmons, but it's not. Anyway, this HVAC unit is like 20 years old, and I had him come out, and I was paying a company to come twice a year and like look at stuff and make sure you're legit for summer and then legit for winter. And he was like, stop doing that.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh? And he goes, there is no reason to ever have your furnace tuned up. The only thing you need to worry about is whether or not it's kicking out carbon monoxide. And so what you should be doing is making sure your carbon monoxide detectors are functioning properly. And then as far as your, I know you're worried about the age of this unit and the size of the house and blah, 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 but always replace parts on your AC unit until the compressor goes, and you'll know the compressor is going because it'll trip the breaker
Yep.
frequently. Until then, do nothing. And I was like, oh my God.
That's how those guys make their money.
He was like, you have no idea the stories I've heard from customers of the big, 3 or 5 around town that like really like salivate and thrive off of the fear of the customer being, in a freezing house in the winter with a baby or whatever, and just charge. I mean, not some insane like that, but anyway, he was like, "Oh, I only buy this one brand of like unit, and it's American made, and it's never let me down." And so the bid he gave me was like $7,000 to replace both. And I had already had 3 or 4 come in, and I mean, they were like 13, 15, and 17. And one of them was like, literally, like stood right out there and was like, don't be an idiot and buy outright. Nobody buys outright anymore. I was like, they want you to like jump on this payment plan where you're just auto pays, just grabbing your money like every month for the life of this note. And back to plumb, I've had some plumbers out when the hot water heater I thought it was going. They like would not quote me over the phone. They're like, we got to get a guy there. And then the guy gets here and he's got his laminated brochure of tiers of payment plans because they want your plumbing and your all. And I was like, if you don't tell me an exact amount for this water heater installed, old one removed, I'm going to ask you to leave. He was like, he closed his binder and stood up, and I was like, oh my God, this is bananas.
That's why I want to do what I want to do. What you gave me an idea from this is to help people not only in trees do that, to help search people, because I mean, I have always hunted and trapped, and I added animal damage control to my tree business as my side stuff, as I love doing it because of the exact same thing. I was there doing tree work for somebody. She goes, oh, this company's killing me. And I go, why? She goes, well, they came and got the raccoons out. I'm like, yeah. She goes, well, they're sending me a bill weekly to raise the raccoons. I go, are you serious? And you're paying that bill?
To do what?
To raise up the raccoons.
What does that mean?
Instead of just getting them out of the house and releasing them and letting them go,
oh,
they were sending a bill like a dog. And I said, you seriously didn't? She goes, yeah. And I go, well, that's illegal. And I said, who's the name? They told me the name. And I said, oh, hold on right here. Called the game warden up. And I said, got a little problem here. And he goes, oh, okay, yes, we want them. We've been after them for a long time. I said, well, you two need to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I went into it because on the animal stuff, I'm the same way. I'll walk up and I'll say, hey, before I come out there and give you a charge, have you done this option? Have you done this option? Have you done all these steps to see if you can get from, because sometimes the animal's just checking stuff out and not staying. Please do all these things, because once I show up, that's when they start paying me. And I said,
right.
And I'll help you out. But I said, please do all these things first, and sometimes you'll help people out. You just go and help people out,
Yeah.
But no, but I had Steph give me a quote on something one time, my wife now, and the guy made me so mad. Shows up in a souped up truck. Right away, I know I hate that. Kind of being a smart aleck, paying attention more to my wife than me. And I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. I know how it goes. And he goes, right now, if you can go with me right now, I can knock $5,000 out the price. And I said, hey, buddy, let me explain this. I own a business. There is no way in my markup I can knock out that kind of money. So if you're making that kind of money, I don't want you on my property.
Yeah.
And I said, because that's a ripoff.
Yeah.
And I said, it should be a steady price. And I said, unless inflation or something happens, it should be steady across the board. You shouldn't be able to knock off that much money and still make a profit.
I had early last summer, I was late on a Friday, and somebody rang my doorbell, and it was this kid. And he was going door to door for this like home project company. Basically decks and patios was their deal, but they also did other stuff. And he's like, I'm just trying to like get appointments. And I talked to him for a few minutes, and I was like, whatever, man, tell them to reach out to me Monday. And he was like, thanks for not yelling at me and kicking me off your porch. I was like, is that happening a lot? And he was like, almost every house. I was like, yikes. So I specifically was like, I want the reminder call to be at this day and this time, because that'll work with my schedule. Well, they didn't do it. It was like, 10, hey, I'm on the way, 10 minutes out. And I was like, I'm not ready.
Yeah, you can't do that.
So anyway, this dude he went out back. We took some measurements, and I told him, I was like, I don't have any money for this, but if I were to be able to come up with money, I would love this and I would love that. And so then we come inside and sit at the dining room table, and he knows his stuff. He's dressed real sharp, got a brief, blah blah blah, and he kind of just leans in the direction of pushing a little bit, and then I felt him lean a little more, and when he leaned a third time, I was like, I'm done with this appointment. If you want to like reach out and set up another time to come talk to me in an angle that I'm in sales. I told him straight. I was like, I'm in sales.
Yeah.
I get it. Coffee's for closers, blah, blah, blah. I
Yeah.
know the deal. And so he's like, I'd really like to come back Wednesday if that works. And I was like, when you come back on Wednesday, is it going to be like, I've got to agree and sign during the appointment or else that all goes away? Is that how it's going to be? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I don't want you to come back then.
Yeah.
And so, and by the way, I'm also trying to get a quote from him, and he's just hemming and hawing and
I got a guy for that
on his phone.
And he shows up and he shows up and he's a worker and he actually does the work. And
Well,
he gives you a quote and he doesn't bug you anymore.
Yeah.
The quote's a quote.
I want to say that he said something like $35,000 or $37,000 for these two things, and then I was like, I don't want you to come back. And so then as I stood and I'm like, we're leaving. He takes out his pen and on his business card writes $30,000 and sets it on the table. I'm like, wait, so $7,000 just vanished?
See,
I was like, yo, man, this is I'm trying to pay the mortgage I was like gonna go down Finance Avenue with you and maybe outsource to try and make this happen for both of us. And now I'm like, ooh, get out of
it drives me
here.
crazy with those guys like that though. Is like, there's not many guys like in my industry that actually climb the trees. So like, I can tell you what I'm doing, and I can relate. I just didn't buy a business, and I'm like, hey, I mean, it's like Kev, my cousin the plumber. He actually does it. I mean,
Yeah.
So you want guys like that, but it's like, I hate the guys that show up in the suit and ties, whatever, and they're just salesmen. It's like, someone don't even know. I mean, and it's like, how long you been with this one? Oh, a year. Okay, well, you don't even really know.
Yeah.
And I really don't want. That's why I've never got into spray. I was the spray guy, and it got to be too many hats to wear because I tried to get someone to spray for me, but I'm anal because I want that person, not me, to be able to explain what chemical they're putting in their trees and explain the trees to you and
Sure.
what they need. And if they have to bluff you, because I've always told people, don't bluff my customers.
Mm-hmm.
You just tell them the truth. If you
Yeah.
don't know, just say, I don't know. I'll find out.
Early in that appointment, like he comes in the door and he sees my framed Blues Sports
Yeah.
Illustrated cover of Alex Petrangelo hoisting the Stanley Cup, and he's like, "You a Blues fan?" I'm like, "Why would I have that hanging on my fucking wall?" I was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "What about And just a couple of back and forth questions, and somehow it led to him telling me where he went to school, and I was like, "Oh, what led you there?" And he reacted in this way that told me that he almost never has these kinds of conversations with his customers before. I'm like, dude, if we can't shoot straight and be real, I don't want to write you a check. I don't want to do business.
You know, the best part about Kansas City I love is I always either have 1 degree of separation knowing someone you know. I mean, it's great. I try to find that connection point to make you feel comfortable, or to, tell you something to make you feel comfortable with me, or ask away, and sometimes you get a vibe and you're just like, it's not going to work. I mean, and I've learned in my days to walk away. I'm just like, hey, I'm not interested. I respectfully decline. I just don't think we're going to be a good, it's kind of like dating. You're just not going to be a good match. And there's nothing wrong with saying that.
Yeah.
But it's like, to go back to that guy again with the 30,000 plumbing deal, he lives in Hallbrook and he moved away, and his contractor buddy was sitting there in a souped up truck down there and was bragging on the phone how he's ripping them, sticking it to him. And so I said, hey, Mads, I've known you for a while, and I've been honest. He goes, your tree bid's a little bit high on something. I said, hey, Mads, let me explain something, buddy. I can break down my bid for you and explain what I did. I go, price per hour, per man, everything. I can break it down for you. I go, no, I am not. I go, but your buddy right there is bragging about how he's ripping you off on your retaining wall. And I said he was bragging to his buddies about what he's going to buy with the money when he gets it. Oh, he would do that to me. And I go, Mads, you're questioning me, and I'm like been honest with you the whole time. And I go, I'm not retiring off your job. That kid's trying to retire off you, and you don't even care. And I said, you know what, buddy? We'll probably have to part ways, because I said I can't work with someone doing what he's doing to you, and then you question me. I said no, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't have a fancy truck all souped up. I said, because my money goes back into the equipment, and I said, not my personal truck.
Yeah.
So,
when you were over the other day, you mentioned something about having a place just not far from here where you
Yeah.
park.
Yeah.
That is like an element of your gig that I never even considered until you said that. I mean, I've seen lots where there's a bunch, but anyway, like your guys showed up with a couple different vehicles. One of them was the big where
The
you
big bucket
where
truck.
where you feed the cut down
The
stuff.
machine, yeah. It's a
Yeah,
bucket truck and a chip truck. It's a
and
forestry
what a
package.
trip it sounds like when they fire it up.
Oh, it's
It's like
a little
something from
gasoline
Star
engine.
Wars.
Oh, it's cool, man.
I mean,
Because I come from when you first started to use the old fast feeds where it just there was no grab wheel. It just would rip it out of your arm. It's what Aspen uses, those old,
yeah,
and it hurt, man. You get slapped with dead oak. It
it's
hurt.
what who uses
Aspen,
the
line
orange.
cleaner, yeah, those little orange ones. They're kind of getting more upgraded, but
What is the story with that name? It's such an. Is it a last name?
I don't know what that goes to. It's something up north, whatever. They're union companies, so
Okay.
Aspen and Wright are both union. And there's Nelson, and I think Aspen bought Nelson. But they do power lines. That's all they do. They clear the hot lines.
Right.
They don't do any private work. So if you see someone doing private work, then they're doing a buddy system because they're not supposed to be. But they are strictly hired by the power companies.
Well, I mean, I used to see them do the tree stuff in PV in the 80s and 90s, and then I didn't see them as much. But when we had the ice storm
Yes.
in 2002,
yes,
they were everywhere.
they got in trouble. They got in a lot of trouble because they did not clear the lines right, and so there was a lot blamed on. That's for a while there. I mean, you probably didn't pay attention as we did.
Right.
You didn't see Aspen trucks anymore because they used to have Kansas and Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
You saw a lot of Nelson trucks.
Okay.
Because even though they owned it, they wanted to get that bad image because they were in trouble for. They get paid to do 2 trees a day. I mean, it's ridiculous, and
That seems like
it's nothing.
I was gonna say.
But I won't get involved. That's a union
Right.
thing. That's a whole different thing, city, and that's why our power bills are high. I'll tell you that.
But you must have like a fleet of.
No, I just have a couple. I've kept it. It's hard to find help.
No, I mean of like vehicles and big equipment, like the whatever the machine is that shreds and spits.
They do. They have to. I only have one set up right now. I've always had one.
So the
set up.
truck that was here, that's the only one of those.
That's it. And I have. I was getting ready to. May he rest in peace. My buddy who was getting ready to build me my new chip truck, huge truck. He said it was in December. He goes, "Hey, I don't feel very good." I said, "We'll just get it next week." I said, "You don't sound very good," and he died the very next week. And yeah, I've known him since I was 17. I mean,
Damn.
He built all my stuff, worked on my equipment or whatever. He died a millionaire. You never even know it.
No way.
He died. He has cash hidden everywhere. He worked all his life. He raced cars. The night never did drugs, never drank.
Wow.
Greatest guy in the world.
So, I mean, do drugs and drink, you'll live longer. No, I'm just
It's kind of funny as you almost said it, but I think he honestly worked himself to death because he never stopped.
Oh, wow.
And, that day he called me. I'll never forget. I was in the truck and he started talking about how demons or monsters were coming to get him, and I'm like, "You need to go to the hospital. Something's wrong."
Holy shit,
and
man.
so I was like, "That's not right for him to be saying that." And he went. And he never came back out.
Whoa.
So of course he went to research. You don't want to go to research, so that was one of the worst ones. So he ended up getting a blood clot or something.
Oh, damn.
So
So you have that big thing, and then do you have the bucket?
I have the bucket, and then I've got my stump grinder mini skid, and I was getting ready to build another chip truck. I used to have log trucks, the big grapple trucks, pick up the logs. But when I had them, that's when I bought the Solder and Son business from my ex-father-in-law. We had a lot of business, and that business deal was kind of a bad deal. And then the recession hit.
Oh,
So when the recession hit, people really weren't tree works. I mean, unless it's an emergency, it's not really a
Right,
necessity.
right.
It's a luxury.
yeah,
I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's a luxury.
yeah.
And so I ended up selling them off because they were just sitting there, and they
So-
were costing money sitting there.
And at the end of the day, is everything parked in the same?
Yeah, it's parked down. It's actually my buddy's place. He's over there by the old Center Middle School. It used to be the old Center High School, the original one,
Uh-huh.
off 85th.
Yeah.
He's owned it, oh my God, since the late 70s. It's all backfilled. It's kind of weird that it was all backfilled from his dump trucking business.
Okay.
Several of us parked back there.
So do you guys go there and get stuff based on the day's work?
Yeah,
Or is
so-
everything always out doing stuff?
No, we park it back there and just grab what we need for the day. I
Okay.
tell the boys what we got for today. So, and then, the guy's we've known each other for 20 some years, and I mean we kind of know each other. So I was having little vehicles, but the guys sometimes bang them up, and I got sick and tired of it. It's like, you know what? I'll pay for the gas, drive your own vehicle. I'm sick and tired of it.
Right.
And guess what? We take care of it a little bit better now.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and the big truck, I mean, it's like, it's not, little cars are easier to smack up than the big ones are.
Yeah.
And then I drive basically everything else. So me and Eddie drive whatever.
Well, it was funny. So they're here doing stuff, and then it was gone, and I was like, wait, that seems. And then it came back, and I was like, oh, he had to like totally go around the block
it's
just to
hard in smaller streets.
reposition.
Yeah, it's hard to do. And then I used to have an old 1974 bucket truck. It was so dangerous. I remember it would catch on fire. I had to keep a rope up in the bucket to go down to put the fire sticker because it would catch on fire. I'll never forget this, doing work in Mission Hills, and this guy comes around and he goes, hey, my family's company built that truck. I said, get out of here. I mean, I couldn't wait to get rid of that truck and sell it. It was junk. We looked at the tag. It was his family. For that guy to run, it made my day. It was cool. But that thing, you didn't realize how dangerous that thing was.
My next door neighbor, it's been a handful of years, but there was a lot of damage from a storm in Waldo and Brookside, and you might have seen him, but so he went over to like 79th and I mean in between Worrell and Ward Parkway, and there was the hugest tree that had fallen, and somebody came along and like cleaned all the limbs off of it and then cut it into. I mean, and these things, like 6 adults could comfortably sit.
yeah.
Anyway, he physically left a note. What are you doing with these? And they were like, they're yours if you want them. So he has a pickup truck. He rented a trailer and went and somehow got 4 of them onto this trailer and then backed it into his driveway and like tied a stump to an actual tree and then just drove forward and pulled it. Anyway, these 4 huge stumps sat at the front of his driveway for like 4 years because they have like a build remodel company, and he was like, I'm gonna slice circles from each stump and make tables.
Yeah.
Well, then he looked into it and he's like, the saw that I need is like way, way, way more money than I'll.
It's huge.
So
it's
they just sat there and for years. And finally his wife was like, I don't care what you have to do, get him out of here. So one evening, this massive monster retro blue, it looked like something you would see doing big trash pickup from the 80s. Backs in or pulls into their driveway and it's trying to pick these things up and put them into its truck, and while it's like lowering one into the bed of the truck, the engine like overheats. I mean, it's like big boom and smoke and smells like oil, and so they ended up having to leave that thing in his driveway for like a couple or 3 days with it just in mid.
You know what? I wonder if that was my ex-father-in-law's truck, because we had the only blue loader. That was us. We had that.
And this thing, you look at it, was like, that thing is ancient.
I bet you that was ours. I bet you that was his.
The dude that was operating was like, yeah, it's no big deal. I'm like, first of all, this whole time it just felt like that thing was going to fall over.
I bet you that was Joe, because that's the guy who trained me. That sounds like him, because sometimes we'd have to leave stuff in driveways. That's why I was always embarrassed back then.
Yeah.
And he'd have to fix it. Come back and fix it.
Well, so see, he was like, yeah, well, tomorrow. And then he came back and fixed it and finished and left. But I was like, if that thing is here for like a week, I'm just going to die.
I bet you that sounds like our old knuckle, but that sounds like, because we were the only ones that had a blue one at the time.
Yeah, I swear.
And that was during that time period.
Yeah.
So, but we have people meet us on job sites with planers, these big, huge planers. It's cool. It picks up the log and starts milling it right there in front of us. It's so cool to make tables and stuff.
Oh, nice.
And
nice.
me and a couple of buddies of mine, we're geeks. I mean, if I find something's a record for the state, I mean, I'll call it in. I mean, I'm like, hey, I think this is a record tree, and I mean, who wouldn't want to work on that stuff? I mean,
Right.
One of the coolest ones we ever came across was downtown at the oldest cemetery in Kansas City. They have Civil War people buried there. And we're cutting this locust tree down, and we keep dulling the saw. We can't figure out why. I mean, it's a huge locust tree. And finally,
how do you know
there,
when the saw gets dull?
it won't cut anymore. You start getting really tiny sawdust instead of big sawdust.
Okay.
And it's just the engine's wrapping out. You're not getting anywhere. You're not digging in.
It's got to be frustrating.
And we're sitting there, and Joe looks in there and goes, "You won't believe this. Come here, look at this." And he's always like, "Yo." That's the way he talked. So we went in there. It was a headstone. The tree had grown around a
Uh-uh.
headstone, and we were hitting the headstone. And we called the head guy at the station. He's like, it must be one of those families that we just forgot about. It's so old. And he goes, yes, we had to leave the stump, and we nicked it a little bit because it's marble. It was,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's probably one of the coolest ones I've ever seen. But we've seen, I mean, I've seen trees down by
Family
our
we
house in
forgot
Waldo.
about.
Oh, it's cool. I mean, shoot, this one cemetery I just found out we've been taking care of for years, where my grandparents are buried, Mount Olivet.
That's
I
where my
guess
dad is.
Billy the Kid's back there. He's buried in the back.
Out on Raytown Road and 77th.
We took care of that one so my ex-father-in-law took care of it, and the guy who managed it, it was handed around from generation to generation of tree company. So we did St. Mary's. It was all the old Catholic ones we did on the Missouri side.
Okay.
We did Rose Hill down the street right here over here. The Jewish cemetery right there. And believe it or not, it's crazy. They kind of screwed up on that, but during the ice storm where that Hebrew school was built,
Yeah.
okay, I don't know why, but they had us trim all those trees. They said, "Well, hold off and go hit the cemetery later." They ended up selling that land to the Hebrew school, and they tore those trees down. And they didn't have any money to trim the other trees, which we always laughed at. Well, they looked good going down because
Wow.
they were pruned and all fixed. So, but they didn't know they were going to sell it though. So
My dad, he's I met his dad 3 times, maybe 4, if that. But he had a couple of real fascinating stories about him, and one of them was I don't remember who had, maybe his father, somebody had passed away, and he bought like my dad wanted to go, his dad wanted to get his kids are like begging him to get like a membership at Kansas City Country Club or something
yeah,
when they're kids. So they go, finally he caves, and they go one day, and whoever's on the other end of the desk is giving him this pitch and this spiel, and he takes out his checkbook and he's like, just tell me. And he's like, oh, no, like we have a whole process and we gotta like look into who. He's like, you're telling me that I can't write you a check for my family to have a membership right now? He's like, correct. And he just stood up, and I guess my dad and his siblings were like, what? No, wait. And he was like, absolutely not. So anyway, he goes to the cemetery one day and goes to the front office and asks to be educated on their tiers, what they have to offer. And it's like, well, this, the most economical is you get what you pay for, blah blah
yeah.
blah. And here's kind of what a lot of people do, and here is like, I mean, we hand polish the corner of your head, blah blah blah. And he's like, so you're telling me if I purchase this, that these are the things you're gonna do forever? And they're like, 100%. And he's like, come with me, and takes them out to a headstone that had purchased they had that plan already, and it was like banged up on a corner and overgrown, and he was just like, and the dude was like mortified. I was like, what a dramatic way to like deliver your point, right?
But it's the way to get. And I'll be honest with you, as each year goes, the older generation, the baby boomers I call them, they would keep up with the stuff. But as you got kind of our generation below, people got lazier and lazier, and people forgot how you were supposed to do this stuff. And
Yeah.
it's because I remember back in the day, we used to have to, when a funeral came, we had to shut down everything immediately, take the trucks on the backside and disappear. They did not want to see you, which I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Who wants to look at that stuff when you're having
Right.
a funeral, And but I saw some cool stuff, man. I mean, like I said, I've seen some wicked cool stuff, and driving around and being working those places, and it's like it's part of history. I mean, it's cool. I did some of the Shawnee Mission schools back in the day.
Nice. You said your grandfather was the youngest of 13?
Yes.
And then where did your folks meet?
So my maternal grandfather, he played basketball for Fog Allen.
Okay.
KU.
Okay.
Kind of a cool story that one of my customers' dads, he didn't believe me, and I pulled me in because back then you only took one pitcher back then, and he didn't have a sweater or anything.
Right.
And he pulled me in the back, and he goes, "Look at this." And matter of fact, she just called me today. He goes, he hands me the book of James Naismith, How to Play Basketball. He's the drawing of how to play basketball. That's him. I got to
What?
meet him, and he was really tall. He lived right there where Country Club Bank is on Shawnee Mission Park,
Okay.
right there. His
Yeah.
house was right there.
Oh, wow.
And when he found out that my grandpa was Bob Fitzpatrick, he's like, oh, come on. He started talking like crazy, And so my mom went to East. She grew up in Prairie Village.
Okay.
They're off Fairway there. And then my dad's an old Shawnee boy. So out there in Old Shawnee. And I forget how they met. They were married for a while. Man, I want to say in the early 80s when they got their divorce.
Okay.
We moved back to Kansas City from Parsons, Kansas.
Okay.
He was a vice president of a bank, and we moved back. And that's where I lived for a long time over there. Been next to.
And how many kids did they have?
There's three of us.
Okay.
And then my dad and Mary and somebody else had another. I have a half sister I've never even met.
Oh. So what's the pecking order for you and your sister?
I'm the oldest, and
Okay.
then so it was 74, 76, and 77.
Okay.
So, my
So you
brothers
guys
look nothing
were
like me.
You're all boys.
They're yes, they're
Okay.
all redheads, and I think both of them. I don't have any hair anymore, and they look exactly like. And I look like the Tschirhart side. They look like the Fitzpatrick side.
Oh, funny.
So
Are they still around here?
Yes, my brother, the middle one, lives in Olathe, and then my youngest actually lives down the street from me. We don't really, none of us really talk.
Oh, that was my next question.
It was not a very good relationship. No, it was not.
But you guys,
My brother will actually tell people. I don't know if you remember Brian Day.
yeah,
He was I was doing work for his dad, and he goes, and every Tschirhart in this town's related, good or bad. We're all related.
sure. I mean,
And we're sitting there, and he goes, "Hey, isn't Chris Tschirhart? You related to him?" And I said, "Yeah, it's my brother." And he goes, "Well, he's head of the Irish committee, whatever, president, whatever." He says that you're not related. I said, "Oh, he tells a lot of people that." And I said, "No worries to me." I said, "I still sleep at night, and my bills are still paid."
but 74, 76, 77?
Yes.
You guys were under the same roof for a
a
chunk.
long time.
Because it's not like somebody was graduating and somebody was 5.
No, we lived together a long time. It just
Growing up was cool, but then in adulthood,
no, we really didn't. I mean, I was kind of separate. I did my own thing. I was a go-getter. I mean, I would go mow lawn. I mean, I just come home with lights on. You know how we were. I mean, I was a latchkey kid. My
Yeah.
mom worked. Mom was never home. My mom started dating my stepdad at the time, and honestly, just we were not a thing. I mean, it's just that was the thing to do, and so we kind of ran their
your
own
mom
thing.
started dating your stepdad before the marriage was.
No, she
Oh.
started dating. She'd been divorced 3 or 4 years, and then that's why they ended up building a house out there, and we moved because he wanted a new house. He didn't want a house in Prairie Village or Mission Hills because he said they needed work or whatever. So and
Sure.
she wanted something new, so they went.
But you said that the divorce between your folks wasn't pretty.
No, it was horrible. It was a bad deal, and I just now reconnected with my dad. I hadn't talked to my dad since 1986.
Holy shit! When did you reconnect?
Last year, a buddy of mine died, and one of my good friends, and I kind of had hey man, life's short, man. Let things go, and just reached out to him. He didn't even know who I was when I walked up to the door. He didn't know. He tried to reach out years
Wait,
before.
you didn't have like I'm gonna come on
Nope.
Tuesday?
I just knocked on the door and said, "Do you know who I am?" And he's like, "No, you sound kind of familiar." We have the same voice, and walked in, got caught up, and
Where's he?
he's up north of the river.
Okay.
He's up there.
And mom is
And my mom is still by Blue Valley North High School. So
okay.
the same house.
Okay.
So.
So you got caught up, and then have you been in touch since?
Oh
or-
yeah, I just talked to him on the way on here. He
Okay.
wasn't feeling too good. Called him, and matter of fact, I got disconnected on home, so I got to call him back. I told him I'd catch him later.
Oh, okay.
No, we kind of catch up, and
And then your brothers don't talk to him either.
well, the little one doesn't, and my middle one he kind of does. He's kind of in his own world.
I
And
can't
so-
really wrap my head around like being a person that walks around the world and has kids out there that you don't talk to.
Now you know why it was important to keep my kids together when I got divorced,
Yeah.
because I didn't, and I've always made them say, "Hey, we're all you got." So I'm kind of having my midlife crisis. Right, 2 of them are moving on in their lives. It's kind of hard for me to let go. But I know they still call me. I mean, I don't have to beg them; they call me.
Sure.
We still get together, and we get upset with each other, and it happens. And I've always told them I'm not your friend, I'm your dad, and sometimes I have to do the bad things. It sucks. But I've learned a lot growing up that way. But my mom's family fought all the time. My dad's family was not close either. So it's like, and I grew up as a latchkey kid. You didn't know any better,
Yeah. Yeah.
But, growing up, I will say in our area that you and I grew up, you grew up with some of the most richest people in town, with some of the most poorest people in town. And I said we all got along pretty much together.
Mm-hmm.
And, old families like the Rekoffs and Borsos. And it was just fun to run with all those families,
Yeah.
And it was, I always wanted that,
Yeah.
The money I didn't care about. It was, you can't take it with you, but just to have
Right.
family. And
So-
I wanted to have more kids with my first wife, but she didn't want to. I mean, I wanted to have a big family.
How many did you have?
I ended up having 4.
4 with her.
Yes. And then took care of that problem because she said she was done. Then she told me that's why I wanted you to take care of that problem. And then I ended up meeting my wife now. She's 10 years younger, and she had two.
Okay.
And matter of fact, her ex-husband just got killed 2 months ago over there by old Benjamin Staples.
What?
Walking across the street drunk and got hit by a car.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
Hell of a way to go.
Well, he wasn't much of a life. He hadn't seen his kids in 5 years, and his parents are very wealthy and were paying for him to sit in an apartment and drink all day.
Oh, man.
So it was like kind of a weird way to go, but his biggest accomplishment, I mean, he's older than you and I. He went to PEMDAY.
Okay.
His biggest accomplishment, he peaked at high school.
Man.
That's when they talked about his funeral. I'm like, I told my kids, I go, at least I can say I've lived my life.
Yeah.
I said, if that's the way I want to live, that's pretty sad.
What do you mean when you said took care of that problem, and then she said what?
Well, she went me and me fixed because I went and got fixed, and then she turned around.
You said that you did.
She wanted me to get fixed, and I said okay, and I was kind of reluctant, and I went and did it, and then she goes okay, and I want a divorce, and I did this so you would never have kids with anybody else.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
And I told her, well, you gave me a great superpower because I don't have to worry about getting anybody pregnant. But I didn't know she was having little affairs on the side. But,
man.
But you know what? Steph and I talked about it.
It is the best.
It is.
And
Steph and I talked about reversing because I have friends that reversed
sure.
it. Because she's 10 years younger. And I kind of wish we had. But honestly, right now, with the way things are, she's like, I'm glad we didn't do it. I'm
right.
Like, me too. Because we're starting to get a few out of the house. It's kind of nice to have a little bit of freedom and, spend time with each other. And really, this second marriage is totally different. I mean, it's,
I mean, it sort of feels like a strikeout in your first plate appearance and then a home run. For lack.
We both have our issues, but we talk to each other, and I've learned. That's why I kind of like got my piercings, my tattoos. I've kind of like, I lived the life I thought I was supposed to live, and I followed the rules, all the Catholic boy, good boy rules. I got stolen and burned by so many people, and I kept going back because that's what you're supposed to do. When I kind of opened up, I was like, you know what? I want to live my life the way I want to. There's nothing wrong with it. I take care of my kids. I want to have a little fun. And you only live once. And then I started having some friends die, and I'm like, man, life is short. Let's have some fun. And so Steph and I, we kind of have the same, the way we look at things, you know, and 10 years difference is a little different because
sure.
I tease her. But
I used to tease, mine was 5. I used to tease on that, but it always comes back as the old man stuff.
I get the old man stuff,
I'm a wizard and a prophet. What are you talking about?
That's why I'm like, and I've learned a lot of stuff from her. I've learned, to control things a little bit better, and she's taught me some things, and I've taught her some things. But it's like we've learned it's okay to be upset with each other. You're not a bad marriage. It's just, hey, you're two people. You're human,
dude,
and it's okay. And first marriage, it was like I'm the devil for getting upset or doing this and
having opinions.
I didn't live her family's life. And that was the problem. And I keep telling my kids, I'm trying to give you guys cheat codes of life, so listen to me. And I said, sometimes I got to let you learn it by yourself. But I said, I was never really told these kind of things. And I said, I don't regret it because I never would have had my 4 kids. And I love it.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
It was a life lesson. I think, honestly, I don't get along with my mom. I think that's why I kind of picked her because she was like my mom. And, because when you're young, you just kind of go with what you know.
Yeah.
And it was
okay, high school, and now college, and then job. Okay, and now what do we do? Oh, marriage.
It's like she kept wanting to follow the path of this certain path of good Catholic people. You go ahead and do this, and you hide a lot of secrets and blah. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. That's not me.
Yeah.
And I did it for a while.
Yeah.
I'm like, but those people really weren't my friends. They're just, hey, I need a discount on this and discount on that. It's like, It's like a buddy of mine reached out the other day. And he said, you probably shouldn't say that on Facebook. I stuck up for something. And he said, you'll lose some customers. I said, I got to be honest with you, buddy. Maybe 1% of the friends ever use me and half of them owe me money. So I really don't care.
Right.
And I said, I'd rather say my opinion. I'm a good person. I'm an honest worker.
Right.
I don't care. You know how it is.
Yeah.
So,
the oldest of 3 boys and latchkey. So you didn't have like an older brother turning you on to music, but were mom and dad into music?
My dad was. I would say it's my dad. My dad. I remember 8 tracks sitting in the van. I was thinking of this way over here. I mean, I was like Zeppelin, Deep Purple.
Your dad was listening to that shit?
Oh yeah, Van Halen, Toto, Beach Boys. I mean Elvis. He listened to 8 track, just different ones.
Did he have one of those like briefcase looking things with the 8 tracks?
No, we had a Magnavox. I'll never forget it. I actually got it for a while. It was a Magnavox, and it had an 8-track player there, and then it had a vinyl record player on top.
No, no, in the van.
Oh no, it was you put it up in the console up top. It was weird how it was like a newer version van, so you could put the 8 tracks up there.
Just for
Where a tape deck would have gone.
Okay.
Back in the day when you
Okay.
and I had it. And I'd replay it because I remember I hated it because you had to go through program sides and it would drive me crazy. It'd take forever to go back around those were programs instead of sides. Remember?
I mean, my dad had back-to-back conversion vans with the briefcase full.
We never
full
had
of 8
that.
tracks, but I would get to put them in,
Yes.
but I wasn't familiar enough with how they were operating.
Yeah. See, he did that, and then I liked it, but I didn't have access to it. You know what I mean? Because we were young.
Yeah.
We didn't have access to it. I had the headphones, listen to FM radio.
Okay.
But you're still kind of trying to find what you want.
Yeah.
And I told you that one day. I'll never forget this, man. It was 8th grade at Indian Hills. I think KY 102 DJ'd the thing. It was like an 8th grade party or like a mixer or something.
Yeah.
And he played You Shook Me All Night Long. And it just was like, oh my God, that's me. I mean, we said that we were kids headbanging our head like idiots.
Yeah.
And he played a Def Leppard album too, and like Photographs at the time.
Yeah.
And I went home, mowed the lawns, and of course, Peaches and Sound Warehouse.
Yeah.
I went down there and bought those records and came back.
It we went from Peaches to Sound Warehouse to CD Warehouse.
Yes, CD Warehouse.
And then now it's a fucking Dunkin' Donuts.
Ugh.
So sad.
Well, I used to sit there, so I would open my windows up, and I'd go shoot baskets. And
Okay.
I had a basketball goal grass, so I couldn't dribble. I could shoot. My neighbor was a mechanic, and he was older, and he liked my music, so he'd be like, "Hey, Dave, crank it up." So I would crank up. I'd crank it all up. He walks over and hands me Kiss Alive album, gives it to me. Rush, hands me these albums, and I'm going, "Oh man, this is so cool." And he's like, "Just keep them as long as I tell you what to play, you play it."
Are these cassettes?
No, these are vinyl
okay.
records.
Nice.
And it's what he gave to me. And then I was friends with Chris Coffin,
Okay.
whose brother Mark was in a band. And
Okay.
I always wanted that tape thing he had because he had all the Dokken, Aerosmith, all that stuff lined up, Metallica, Megadeth. And I'm like, and it was like, I was like a computer. I couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
But it's like I finally found my place. I could zone out. I mean,
Where is this place that the mechanic was across the street?
he was next door to they tore the house down now. It's a different house now.
But this is your parents' house?
It was
where
my
you're-
mom's house in the 80s in Prairie Village.
After divorce.
Yes.
And
yes.
where in
Becky Toller used to live there, who went to school with us. She may not have made it. I think she might have moved before Indian Hills.
where in PV was this place?
74th Street, right there by his state line there. So it was like
Okay.
Jack
okay.
hadn't built Lockton Insurance yet. It was still a field.
Yep.
Because we'd ride our dirt bikes there.
Okay.
And I had Lester Allison was there. He was up the street. He was older than me. The Smith brothers, they were all Catholic kids. I hung around with them. And then at the end, the Wilson sisters moved from Hawaii.
So this mechanic across the street is like working on cars.
So
in
his driveway
yard?
backed up to my driveway. So he'd work on cars. I can't remember. I can picture his face. And he's like, "Man, I can't believe you like that stuff. I mean, crank it up." So I cranked it.
And nobody ever was like, "Hey, turn that shit down."
No,
Nice.
they didn't care. It was cool, man. He would just like, "Man, that's cool, man." He's like, "Hey, I'm working today, man. Turn it up, man." And he finally said, "Just keep them." He was cool to me. He moved. And he
You
said,
still have them?
No, you know what? That's one thing I regret. Right before when I got my divorce, we got back together a while, and she wanted me to change, so I did I'll do this for the family, and I got rid of everything. And I had my aunt's albums from the 70s. I had so many albums, and I regret it to this day. And I pretty much gave them away to that vintage stock or whatever.
Okay.
So now I'm going back trying to recoup everything.
Are you actively buying vinyl these days?
Yeah, I go by. Steph and I love to travel to small towns.
Cool.
And we'll hit antique places.
Nice.
And I like hitting vinyl albums.
Yeah, man.
And I like the people who don't know what they have.
Right?
But I will warn you, take the album out because I bought a Kiss Alive Animalize one and it was scratched bad. I didn't see that one scratch.
Sure.
I was a little upset. But, oh yeah, my son's into it. My daughter, she's 15. She's into my music. And and I always try to see, I've always all my life tried to see one musician at least one time in my life, whether it's Billy Joel, Elton John,
Sure.
anybody big.
Yeah.
I like to see crowd reaction. I love it. It's just, man, just that electricity is just so. I mean, I'm just a Rush guy. I'd like to feel it. And
Yeah.
every mood, you can relate for that song for the moment.
100%.
You know, and
Hold that thought. I got to pee real quick.
you're good, man.
Do we need to get you out of here by a certain time?
Man, I'm good. My wife was making fun of me. She's like, "Oh, that's the one thing you like to do is like to tell stories." So, yeah.
Speaking of, I think, I don't know, but maybe gun to his head, if my dad had to pick a favorite, he probably would have picked John Denver.
Really?
But I think that John Denver as his favorite was often interchangeable with the Oak Ridge Boys.
Oh yeah.
And so he had some of their 8 tracks, and he would any opportunity to tell the story of how he gave them a ride somewhere one time in one of his conversion vans. And I feel like you told me something about them the other day.
So the Oak Ridge Boys and Loverboy are the same guys going back and forth, and
That's not true. That is
buddy of mine, dad was the drug supplier for those bands, and he used
they're
to
not.
tour
Wait,
them.
wait, the Oak Ridge Boys and Loverboy are the same.
No, not Oak Ridge Boys. It's Loverboy and it's one of the other big bands. Not the Oak Ridge Boys. I have to remember what it is.
Okay.
And his dad was, and they tried to get him to go on tour with him, and to be the drug supplier. This is the 70s.
But now we are talking about the Oak Ridge Boys.
No, it was
okay,
Loverboy,
okay.
and I can't remember what
Okay.
band members would go back
Okay,
and forth.
okay.
And he basically said it's like the same band, and I can't remember what it was.
That's hilarious.
But he told me some awesome stories. I mean,
were they like from here or around?
No, I just can't see it was a big stop
Yeah,
for bands
yeah,
back in the day,
it's wild.
and it was also a big drug time, and Kansas City's got some famous history of bands stopping by. I mean, at one time we had good places to, go. I
Sure.
mean, I told Steph we were down at Municipal at a cheer thing. I'm like, oh man, we used to go see bands at Municipal. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that's where we went.
Yeah.
And it's weird to go into Kemper Arena now or Hy-Vee Arena. And
Yeah.
it's 3 levels. I'm going.
Dude, I went there in January for a gymnastics meet. I was
See?
like, what?
Aren't you freaking thinking
it
that?
was so weird.
I mean, we either went to Comets games or we went to. I mean, the bands we saw there.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my god. I mean, I remember going to see Motley Crue and Tommy Lee spinning on the drum
Yeah.
set back then for girls
Yeah.
back then. I mean, it's just.
So this whole latchkey kid, mechanic, like your brothers were never like, what are you listening to? That's cool. I like it.
They were not. They were in daycare a lot. I was pretty mature for my age, and I could watch myself. And they were up at that daycare that was actually on the corner of there in Belinda, not ECC, Red Bridge Christian Church, right there on the corner of Belinda and 75th Street. It's abandoned now, but
It was First Lutheran Early Education Center.
they went there. They were there.
My sister runs that place now.
She does.
It's at basically like Meyer and State Line across from the
Oh,
Mission
it
Hills
is?
City Hall.
Okay, so
But
the
it was
young
at
kids.
75th and Belinda for
Yeah, the young
a
kids
while.
would stay in the grayish building, and the older kids stay at the one across the street. Then they kind of combined them, and then I just I could prove I could take care of myself, and I was I was mowing
okay.
lawns, and
Yeah.
my brothers were always trouble fighting and stuff like that. And they were kind of that's why we kind of separated,
Yeah.
They weren't the daredevil like me. I could I go ride bikes around and explore and be back like I was supposed to, and they were always in trouble.
So one of my favorite things about this whole deal is when you get somebody that says yes, and then the first step to sort of get them to commit is to pick records. And sometimes people are really weird about it. Like they got to take weeks and then come up with a list. And sometimes it's 5 and sometimes it's 10 and whatever. Some people think about it for a short time and then here you go. And some people are like immediately ready.
Oh yeah.
You were this part of the second camp where you thought about it for a second and then you immediately fired back. And I'm going to go in chronological order of release. So you already mentioned both of them actually, but Back in Black.
Yep.
Which is 1980.
Mm-hmm.
It is the first Brian
First one,
Johnson.
Brian Johnson,
Okay.
yep.
Bon Scott died in 77.
77, yeah. Yeah.
You've already mentioned both of them. So 1983 Pyromania, Def Leppard, both bands in my memory had dudes die with insane blood alcohol content.
Yes.
Like Steamin' Steve Clark from Def Leppard was like
I still remember that day they announced it. I remember
same.
waking up on my alarm clock and going, Steve died. I mean, I was like, I was crushed.
Yeah.
I was crushed.
Bon Scott. Did he?
I don't remember Bon Scott. I think I was a little too young
I
then.
think he drowned in a
He
pool.
yeah, he drowned. It was accidental.
But I mean, I think he was like one of them was like .40,
Oh
and
yeah.
the other one was like right in that neighborhood.
Steve took some pills too.
No, oh really?
He didn't want to. He had a depression. He kept trying to kill himself.
Yes.
They said before every tour he would beg not to go on stage because he was afraid of people.
What?
He hated going on stage.
You see the threads he's wearing in videos. You think he's like a
It said
charmer.
for some reason he did, and if you ever watched his girlfriend, his fiance at the time, talk about what it was, it's like, wow, that was probably his release to play, but he was not a crowd person. I mean, they said he would do anything and everything. That's why he drank, so it'd numb him.
Sure.
And I think that day he took some pills, not to kill himself, just to relax himself, and it was the wrong mixture. So
So, man, I've gone so far with AC/DC and particularly Back in Black. They were like just the way those four letters with the little lightning bolt in between, right in the middle, were written was like, ooh, like that seems edgy and maybe a little bit scary. And so I didn't ever really like. I would hear a little bit, but then I had a cousin move here in the '80s, and he as I don't know a 12 or a 13-year-old like knew their discography like top to bottom. That's why you said "Fly on the Wall" there. I was like, I know what that album art looks like in a millisecond.
see, I went back. I was like you. I was trying to learn as fast as I can. We didn't have internet. We didn't have stuff to talk to.
Well, he had everything on tape.
See,
so.
I went from Back in Black to Fly on the Wall, and I didn't even know they had stuff beyond
Sure.
Brian. I didn't
Sure.
know. And so then when I found that whole new world, I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I mean, when he first was like, you totally would love this band. You need to listen to him. And I'm pretty sure Who Made Who, Back in Black, and Dirty Deeds were the three that he pushed first. And then it was like Fly on the Wall. And anyway, I would put money on the fact that he was like, you don't know Shook Me All Night Long? And I was like, And so, I mean, Walkman, cassette, headphone, like just laying in beds in each other's whatever bedroom and just killing daylight, listening to tapes over and over again, and being like, wow, this song, not only is it a banger, but it's like, there's some very heavy innuendos. And now, like, I remember I probably heard that song, I don't know, 50, 60 times before I ever saw the video.
Yeah.
And then I saw the video and I was like, I feel different now. And now it's like the whole world knows it, and people put it on like, they'll put it on like a playlist or something that's full of like sexy songs. I'm like,
It's weird that because you and I, that was new. And when you and I were growing up, like Santana and like Van Halen, even were all the old stuff, Aerosmith, all the old stuff. It's weird to think that AC/DC now is our old, our old, and we hand on to our kids. You know what I mean? It's like by the time when Brian came on, it had never been done for a new lead singer to take over, and
it's ballsy.
I mean, for him to do that and to take the lead because they were on fire. I mean, with Vaughn, they were on fire. They were on their way up, and most people disbanded.
Well, I gotta believe, right, wrong, or otherwise, that the band members were like, in some level, what would Bond want us to do?
Yeah.
And they arrived at the decision they arrived at, and the rest is history. But so he played that song for me, and I was like, that's cool. And he's like, wait till you check out the rest of the album. And then, rewind, and I'm just sitting there listening to the tape, the hiss, to get to and then you get the opening to Hell's Bells. And I was like, what the fuck?
And see, they couldn't play it on the radio for a while. I mean, because they played You Shook Me, remember?
Yeah.
But a lot of the other stuff they couldn't play. So, like, when we started listening to the album, I was like, and then when we got older, the radio started expanding. What you play. You started hearing more Hell's Bells.
Well,
Back in Black. You really didn't hear those very often.
No. I think as somebody that appreciates the concept of writing and recording and releasing an album, I don't know that there's been a bigger album opener than those church bells, and then that, that guitar riff. It's just like, whoa, oh my god.
The way every album got better and better, but I know towards the end here they've kind of gotten quirky stuff. They're getting a little bit older now. They can't quite do it, but the way they wrote stuff, man,
Dude.
it just was, and not every album sounded different. None of them sounded like a continuation. That's what I loved about it.
Yeah,
I mean, it was because it's weird because Flick of the Switch was after that, and it's weird to think Flick of the Switch is. I mean, because it's Brian, you know it, but it's almost like it belongs in the Bon Scott era because the songs are more kind of that style song. You know what I mean? Because I think Flick of the Switch was right after Back in Black, and then it went to Fly on the Wall, and then and so on. But I always thought for a long time because their voices were almost the same in a way.
Yeah.
Well,
I remember being blown away by that, and then What Do You Do for Money, Honey? And I was just like, are we allowed to be listening to this?
Yeah.
It sounds like he's talking about.
Well, that's what made us feel cool, though.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, give the dog a bone.
Sure. Yeah, that's like so. And then you just straight into no more messing around. I'm not being tongue in cheek or I'm going straight.
Oh yeah. Until your batteries were out, you're mad because you're reminded.
I'm getting ahead of myself. So what do you do for money, honey? How do you get your kicks? Anyway, and then it's like giving the dog a bone. It's like, I think you're talking about giving somebody else a bone.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's a dog in this story at all. And so you're kind of like interest. And then Let Me Put My Love Into You.
Oh,
it's like, oh, now we're right at now it's direct. Like we're not, painting any pictures anymore. And strangely, like that might be, that is a killer track.
The whole album it all blends in each other well.
It does.
It
does.
And Brian just belts it. I mean, I think that's why they did it as a Black album because it was a tribute to Bond, and they didn't want to take away from what it was and start over basically from square one.
Yeah.
But God, man, it's just like you said, you hit Hell's Bells, man. It's just
Obviously, everybody knows. Back in Black, the title track is where you get the
side 2 first song. That's all I remember.
But it opens with the right. You get the little anyway.
Yeah, it's
shook me. By this point, I'm sad to say, like I'd be totally fine if I never heard it again.
Yeah, because I don't like the way people put it in context, like you said.
Yeah,
it takes away from what it was, and it's like it maybe look different on stuff, but it was like, it's kind of like we discovered a long time ago, and everybody else kind of discovered. It's like, we were discovered that.
Yeah.
There's other songs we think are. I mean, I can go back to For Those About to Rock, We Salute You, and pick some, songs I like to listen to a little bit more.
That's the much. Brown with the cannon on wheels.
I mean, Inject the Venom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Have a Drink on Me is a pretty good track.
Oh yeah.
Shake a Leg's pretty good, and then closing with Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution. Like I would argue, that no record has ever had better bookends for an opener and a closer. I mean,
and Shoot to Thrill and Shake a Leg.
Yeah,
my Mo songs, man. I mean, they pumped you up, and it's like. Now it's so nice. We take for granted how we just push replay instantly. To think that batteries you'd wear out and drive you crazy. Like, do I want to sacrifice it for that song?
I remember like getting, the first time it had you like, well, I don't know, the batteries, and then as you start burning through sets, you can start to pick up on subtle little delays as the batteries reach that first.
You could catch it. I was such a geek, believe it or not, because I walked home from Indian Hills, and it was a long walk. I would find tapes on the street, people threw out of their car and cracked, and I would actually go buy old tape covers and undo the tape and put it into the new cassette cover.
Wow.
Because I wanted music so bad.
Yeah.
I got my Bad Company that way. I got my Foreigner tapes that way, and I was like, I don't know if girls were getting mad, throwing them out the window. I found Bad Company in a creek.
Oh, wow.
I was like, sweet. I recovered the whole tape and fixed it, and I'm like, all proud of myself.
So from 80 to 83, and we've got Pyromania. And what's really peculiar, I'd never noticed this before until I revisited it for this. The first couple verses of the opening track Joe Elliott sounds like Brian Johnson.
Oh, he can't even hit it anymore. He said Mutt made him Mutt made him scream because he wanted to do it, and it's just he explained Ontagleeten Glotten Goten yesterday.
Oh,
He just explained that for once.
I just found it because I've been wondering my whole life.
Mutt made him. They got sick and tired of counting in, and Mutt made him say something different.
3,
yeah,
4. So they say that.
Yeah.
It's been a poet named Michael Robbins used it in a piece that he published in the New Yorker.
Yep.
What's their names? Offspring in their "Pretty Fly for a White Guy" song.
They use it.
And the Rick Allen he says that it's pretty funny now when they play it. Like Joe gives him a cue, and he gets to say it, and
he's always let him say it, man.
And the crowd obviously knows
what's coming.
Yeah,
it's what I always liked about that band is Joe and them. They put their music influence into their music. It's like it's the stuff you and I would listen to anyways, and like they've done some side projects. It's like, man, I love this old. Oh, Joe's done some awesome side projects.
Really?
Oh yes, I'll have to send them to you.
Okay.
It's kind of like 60s, 70s rock and roll. He does.
Oh wow.
He totally different bands. Phil Collins did a bluesy steel.
That's bass, right?
No, Phil is the guitarist.
Rhythm guitar. Okay.
He's the lead guitar now because when Steve died, he took over as lead. But he did kind of a bluesy with a southern gal on it, and it's called Delta Deep, and it's like it's not Def Leppard. It's so cool, and they've done different projects. So.
I mean, I can't pick the only I hear Joe Elliott, and I picture the hair long, super basically a mullet, but really long, and like a T-shirt of his own band, Def Leppard, with the sleeves cut off.
He's always had that
tucked into his blue jeans
with his cowboy boots stick on the outside.
Did he cowboy boots? I thought he would wear like basketball high tops.
Sometimes he wore high tops. Sometimes he wear the cowboy boots on the outside.
Some plain ass white Reebok looking.
But their concerts were always the best, I thought, because they would mix their songs up. All of a sudden, you'd hear "Are You Excitable?" the beginning for the Hysteria song. Are You Excitable? And all of a sudden, you'd hear the intro to that, and all of a sudden, it'd drop and go right into Rock Till You Drop, and just blow it away. And I love him, but he's kind of losing his voice a little bit. It's kind of like David Coverdale, because these guys are getting older.
Well, I mean Brian Johnson can't. I think they have to space out.
He did, and I was blessed because that's why I love my wife now. She doesn't like him, but when we first started, she bought me ACD tickets, and I mean to go there, and it was right before he retired. He still.
Oh yeah, he's gone now.
He came back. He did come back and he's written another album.
Somebody filled in for.
Oh, it was Guns N' Roses lead singer. He's terrible.
Axl.
Axl filled in. Yes,
that's right.
He filled in, and it's like, Guns N' Roses to me, the first one was fine. The other ones I couldn't stand,
right.
and he wasn't able to sing to go from. It wasn't like Phil Collins could go from Genesis to Phil Collins. It was like, it wasn't that good, and it wasn't Bon, it wasn't Brian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was terrible.
So Photograph obviously was there was a video. It was on the radio a bunch. Is that song about masturbation?
Photographs about Marilyn Monroe.
That's it.
It was about Marilyn Monroe and about her lifestyle and stuff. But the reason why I think I like both of those, like Back in Black, and then every song flows into the next song. It's like a story.
It does.
And it feeds the next one. It's like, and they take you back down, they bring you right back up again, and it's a good flow.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I mean, when I first got my copy of Pyromania, I barely knew Photograph. I bought it for Rock of Ages.
Yeah.
But when Stage Fright opens and he does that, welcome to my show, I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my god, they'll
Holy
do that
smokes.
before a concert, and they'll drop the whole curtain and just go right in.
Wow,
it's just
that's cool.
But yeah, but I like going back because. Going back, I used to find myself in those old warehouses where you find little records of the songs that weren't released. The 45s.
Yeah, B-sides.
I'd find some B-sides of stuff that wasn't released on Pyromania that was like, oh, they should have released that. It was awesome.
Right.
Or some mysterious songs that never made the cut that were just killer.
Man, that feeling when he says that on Stage Fright, and then the rest of the song and some other parts.
Die Hard, The Hunter.
Well, it's like they were going all in to be like a legit hard rock band, and then that was kind of it. I mean, because the accident happens, you got to figure out how to relearn how to play, and then Hysteria, which I
love it.
I love.
It took them 4 years to make that.
I love more than Pyromania.
Yes.
But that edge, if you will, of like we're gonna be in the top tier of like legit hard rock bands, it was gone to me. I
They
mean,
didn't care. They established themselves. They wanted to write what they wanted to write.
which is totally fine.
Because you can tell they kind of separated because it took them 4 years to write it because of all like Rick Allen lost his drum. A couple got divorces, or he lost his arm. A couple got divorces. Someone lost their house to a hurricane or a boat. They go through all of the stuff they go through, and they kept coming back. Went through several producers.
Okay.
And because they wanted to write their stuff, they didn't want to make Pyromania 2s with
right.
Everybody kept trying to make them do it.
Yeah.
Which is
are you On Through the Night and High and Dry? Do you like those records?
The first one, On Through the Night.
It's got the
I love Hello America,
like a tractor trailer.
Yeah, trailer track with the guitar on the back.
And then the other one's somebody diving into a pool, right? On Through or High.
Yeah, it's a high dive. And there's actually one before On Through the Night. I got it.
No way.
It's like 3 or 4 songs.
Oh, it's an EP.
Yeah, and it was the one that wasn't officially released. So it's like they released it.
Oh.
But they went back and recorded On Through the Night, and I got it. I can't remember where it is. I've got a tape of it somewhere. Nice. I have it. I've remastered all the songs. I've got them on master stuff now.
Cool.
I told the kids, if you die, you're gonna get my Apple Music. You're getting one hell of a catalog.
So from that stage fright, Too Late for Love, for me, that's the first real banger on that record. Yeah. That's a really good song.
That hits into it, man.
I've always carried, or I've not gone back to and listened to Pyromania probably since middle school or high school, but Die Hard the Hunter, as just the title, has always stuck with me. And when I went back and re-listened to it, I was like, why? And it's got like this weird like Headless Horseman kind of scary vibe to it.
The way that Too Late for Love goes into Die Hard the Hunter is perfect.
It's pretty
They're
rad.
Almost like part 1, part 2, kind of, you know.
But I'm still not exactly sure what's happening in that song.
I don't know. I think it's almost like a wartime thing. I mean, it's almost like you're going through a war and you're fighting it, you're making it, and you're digging out through the trenches. I mean, to me, that's what it almost sounds like.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to be the hero, is what it's supposed to be.
And speaking of confusion and what's happening in this tune, what is Foolin' about? I mean, I've heard that song more times than I could count.
And it's weird because the videos make it confusing too. I never really heard the explanation of Foolin'. Yeah. That was the one I really didn't. All the other ones I've heard explanations for. But.
So Foolin' for me, I've talked about it a lot on here. I have a pretty bad case of classic rock burnout.
Yeah.
Sort of like with You Shook Me. Like I've heard it so many times that I literally don't want to hear it anymore.
Foolin' is hard because back then we never heard enough. You're right. It is one of the other ones played.
Yep.
SiriusXM likes to overplay this stuff.
Do they? Okay.
I wish they. It's like they only have the license to play certain ones. It's like that band had other albums, songs that were just as good too. Mix it up, make it last a little bit longer.
So I'm not exactly certain when my folks split, but I know that my mom married her second husband in '82, and that job. They worked for United Telecom over on Shawnee Mission Parkway, which I think eventually became the Sprint home base before they did the. Anyway, so they hook up and are getting married, and he immediately gets transferred to Atlanta to work for a company, I think under United Telecom, called Isocom.
Okay.
So all of a sudden we're gone, and we were like staying in these condos while they were building a house in this brand new subdivision. And once it was done and we moved in, we had cable, and I was like, "Holy shit, MTV!"
You're like me,
And I'll never forget for the rest of my life. Like I caught like the tail end of Rock of Ages, and then I feel like I spent weeks, having buddies sleep over or being at buddies and sleeping over at their place and watching all through the night to try and catch that video in its entirety. And I finally did. And it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen with the fucking sword that.
Yeah, and then they had the people dressed up and they do Old Glee Globin, they have the robes. Whatever.
All I remember is the sword. It's like, and it becomes a guitar or vice versa. And just for years, just like that is the acme of. And then this is the first time I had this experience. All these years later, curious one day, pull it up, and it looks like complete garbage.
Well, they didn't make videos back. I mean, they were.
I know.
Because everybody would make these videos to put on reel to reel, a lot of them are like
For concert footage. Or?
Yeah, like when Bon Scott would do it, it was like reel to reel, but they would do a whole scene where he'd dress up like a little schoolgirl, and it wasn't really there. It was just there to have fun, and they didn't really do it. And then I think Joe Elliott even talks about how stupid it was. They'd make you do these little scenes, whatever, to try. He goes, it didn't even match the song,
right?
But that was their idea of what they saw the vision was, and he used to drive crazy.
I'm sure.
And but you're right on that. Some of those they make fun of themselves.
And that was really like there's only like 3 tracks maybe after Rock of Ages, and the first couple didn't really. I didn't have anything to say about them, but Billy's Got a Gun.
Billy's Got a Gun was a little different. I wasn't one of my favorites.
Well, it's like 7 minutes long, and then all this weird Sonic shit is happening at the end, and then it just kind of.
I think they said they had to do it to fill the tape time to get in there, and they just did that because they didn't have any more songs to put on there. I think it's what he said.
Wow.
But yeah, Billy's Got a Gun was not.
That's when you're like with the B-sides that you should have put this shit on.
Yeah,
there.
I know. It's like going, why didn't you put this? But it's like Billy's Got a Gun is not one of my favorite ones. It just.
It's different. Very different for 1983.
Yeah, it is.
So, you guys, you have 4. She has 2. How many are out of the house now?
So Siler Taylor's getting ready to move to Minnesota, and then Siler lives in Vermillion, South Dakota.
Okay.
And so
still in school, but not doing football.
No, he's done. He just quit. He said, I'm done. And
with school or football?
With both. And,
okay.
Because I don't believe in college anymore unless why borrow that money?
Yeah,
and
man.
If you don't know what you want to do, it's a waste. If you know what you want to do and you want to get trained in it, and right now there's too many jobs opening up that'll train you, and you can make better money.
I gotta let that puppy.
Yeah,
out.
Go ahead.
So you don't believe in college anymore? What? Something about
so many people getting so much debt,
yeah.
And right now the way things are, we were beating our heads when you and I were growing up. College. I regret going there. It was a waste of money for what I needed to do. It fits a lot of people, but so many jobs train you right now that you can make better money. And when I told him, I said, football is paying for it, I think it's great.
Yeah.
But to go borrow the money
when
you don't know what you want to do, it's just endless. And they actually told him, you will never make a life without a degree. That is not true. If you think about it, almost everybody we went to college with, probably 98% of them are doing what they went to college for. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Man, so I borrowed the Max, and then doing either social work or restaurant work. I never really had the money to make the payment.
It's hard.
Then I went to grad school, and I borrowed the Max, and eventually I consolidated them, and because of the amount and the interest and all, it's $70,000.
Yep.
And so I was making whatever kind of measly payment, once we are married and having kids and have a mortgage and all this shit. And one day they were like, at this rate, you're going to pay literally double, unless you do something different. So, started giving him $1,000 a month for, I think, 4 years. And I got it down to 50. And then we separated, got divorced, all this stuff, and I was like, I don't have $1,000 a month anymore to give you. And it was right around COVID starts, and so there was some plan put in place. Like, I didn't do anything, and they didn't do anything. It just this umbrella. Here's what we're doing with student loans, and so for a couple years, I didn't really even think about it.
Yeah.
And then one day they called and they're like, that thing's gone. And I was like, well, I still don't have money to give you.
Yeah.
And they're like, but you have to. And I'm like, I don't have. And so they're like, all right, send us all the things, how much you make and blah, blah, blah. So I send them all the stuff and they're like, sorry, you make enough money. And I was like, you don't have any idea what you're talking about. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
So for a good chunk of 2021, I would just be late.
Yeah.
I think I owe him $370 a month.
Yeah.
And so if I would find myself, oh, I've got a little bit of money in this account, I would make a payment.
Yeah, yeah.
And then in November, I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And so they've been on my case since then. And finally, emails and calls. And I finally was like, I just called them one day. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you, but I don't have the money to pay this anymore. So you can do all the threat. I know the things, but just leave me alone and send it to wherever you got to send it, and I'll deal with the consequences. But this has to stop. And she's like, I just don't understand, and blah, blah. Send the stuff one more time. Just let me, because it seems like we're talking about two different incomes for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. So I sent it, and they're like, oh yeah, you don't have enough money to pay this. And I was like, I've been telling you that for like 2.5 years. And so they did whatever they did to it, but I think, and I don't even know, I got to call and find out, there was a 6-month shelf life on whatever it was. So it like went in the system and covered May back to November, and now it started over again. They're like, you're late. I'm like, oh my God. I gotta, so.
But don't you think, okay, in your position now, don't you think you'd be better off? I'd rather see the government give money towards a house or something to start off with, because at least you get your money back. It grows in income. Most places you gain it. To me, the education system, I mean, unless you're being a doctor or lawyer really anymore, I think back in the day when our parents were doing it, it was needed. I think it's overdone itself, and now we're trying to support teams and stuff like that, and deans and salaries and stuff, and it's like, I mean, like sitting there making you take all these stupid classes that you need to get it for your core classes. Just put you straight through you could probably spend 1 year and get trained and be done.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
And then if you don't like it, you can go do it a different
year,
what I'm saying. A different program.
But that's the way. But hey, I got friends right now, believe it or not, and I don't want to say their names right now, but they sent their kids through Catholic school, just Catholic school, not even college. They're $70,000-$80,000 in debt.
Oh, mine are in Catholic school.
But see what I'm saying? But you see what I'm saying?
We're gonna have. She'll be a senior when he's a freshman, and we'll be looking at either St. Teresa's and Rockers.
Yeah.
And they're like 15, 16 a year.
I know. I was gonna go there. I know. Jack Lockton, that's why I love him to death, was furious that Rockhurst would not give me a scholarship. He wrote them a nasty letter.
Oh boy.
Because he wanted me to have a basketball scholarship.
Were you that close with Don growing up?
Yeah, we were. I mean, it was me, Don, Steve, Brent, all. But we were pretty close. Okay. And they took me. I played for Jack's basketball team. And I was pretty good. And matter of fact, he even told me one day, he goes, "You ever been on vacation before?" I said, "No. I mean, we're poor." He goes, "I'm taking you to Vail." He took me and Branner and Don and John Accardo to Vail. Best time of my life. Matter of fact, Don and I are supposed to be meeting tomorrow with Branner.
Oh, funny.
He took me off separate for the boys and taught me how to ski. Him and Cheryl did. And he was always good to me, man. He was always very good to me.
I don't know if they do anymore, but Chris Luck's little brother Grant would sometimes hang out with Don, go on trips, and he would come back and say it was super wild and super fun, and basically, and I'm not quoting verbatim, but he said the only thing about Don is that he doesn't want you to ask him to like get you a job. Or,
Oh yeah. He was. See, I stopped running with him in high school, so I kind of lost touch. But I mean, we message each other every now and then. And then his first ex-wife ended up, Becky Hirschman. She
R.I.P.
I messaged her one day because I'm like, "Is that Steve? What was Steve's last name?" I went to Steve Lemon, and she was getting ready to get married to him. And I went to school with Steve at Blue Valley North.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard from him since graduation. And I'm like, "Is that Steve?" She's like, "Yeah." So we talked for a minute and, saying, "Hey, everything's going, And then I went and saw Rekoff's Tom. And his wife's like, she died. I go, "No, I just talked to her." And he goes, "No, she died." I'm like, "Are you serious?" I mean, I loved her to death. I remember her growing up, in Hershey. I remember all those things. So that was hard for me. But, and then Donnie messaged me every now and then. And then, I see Branner quite a bit. And him and Don are real close.
Right.
Matter of fact, I'm meeting with Brian and Matt tomorrow. So,
so your oldest two are out of the house.
Yeah, they're out of the house.
And your youngest two.
I've got two. So,
and she has two.
I have one that's going to be a sophomore in high school, and she has one that's going to be a sophomore in high school. And then she's a boy, and I have a girl. And then we both have, but Gannon was held back 1 year because he didn't make his birthday didn't make the enrollment. You know how you
certain.
So he really should. He's the age he should be in 7th grade next year, but he's going to 6th next year.
Just yours.
That's mine, and
Okay.
then she has a 7th grader next year.
Okay. So you guys,
So-
you do have some. You've put in some time, but you still got a little bit.
We have about what we were just some of the other day because I got to get rid of my ex-wife. Then 7 more years.
Well, that's
7 more years, and I wish it wasn't like that, but that's the way it is.
You said that you guys just had a situation yesterday or the other day.
Yep. Just typical, just never stops, man. Messing with the divorce decree, and it's just like
Wait, what? It's filed years ago, and
oh yeah, it was filed years ago.
She wants to get in there and tinker with it.
Oh, it's just one of those things where she thinks I call it's Dave's rules that he needs to follow, and she can do whatever she wants. And it was basically over a holiday. She thought she should be picking him up, and she was wrong. And I tell you, my wife I have now is deadly on stuff like that. She's a nerd. I mean, she teaches, she knows she knows that stuff, and she's like, it's wrong. And in the past, I kind of let him go. I just let it go, I'm like sick of it, and it's like I let you have your times. I don't argue. We do it. She won't let him call me on her times. He's not allowed to talk to me.
Wow.
Not supposed to do that, and it's a nightmare. But whenever she goes out, and that's why when I always hear people talk about parents, I'm like, don't get me involved because I don't know what's going on. Because she's great about telling people the whole story about how we're awful people, and a lot of people have turned away from us. And
jeez.
But I've kind of like life's short. If that's the way you want to think about it, man. Let it go, man. I've never burnt anybody. I've always helped everybody out. And matter of fact, we ran into a friend at a bar, and she's like, "Oh, is she still doing this? Whatever." I go, "You guys follow Facebook way too much." I said, "That is the most biggest." I call it fake book, the big illusion.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I've gotten so good at reading, I can tell when someone's getting ready to get a divorce. I can tell when someone's having an affair. And I know that because when I was dating, as you grew up in town here,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to find someone that not even bad. I just wanted to start over fresh.
Yeah.
And I kept running to people with like 1 degree separation constantly, and it's like, and then I would check them out. Because dating app was weird.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. And I'd look them up, and I'm like, you're lying, or you're still. I want no part of that.
Yeah.
And
I have matched my drama quota. I don't need any of yours.
But when I met Steph, even her, the guy before she dated me, was I knew him.
Oh, really?
She's like, oh, he's a poor firefighter, got hurt. I'm like, oh yeah, he's a drunk and an alcoholic. He was on drugs when he got hurt, so don't feel sorry for him. And he beat his wife, who I know, and she's a bartender at used to be at Tanner's, now she's at Bobby Baker's, and I'm like, I know them very well. I said, yeah, he's a jerk. Don't feel sorry for him. But it's like, God, I can't get away from anybody.
Yeah, I know, man.
And then her ex was Jewish, and so the parents are really big at B'nai Yehuda, who we followed B'nai Yehuda, our tree work. We did all the tree work for B'nai Yehuda at the 3 different locations.
Oh,
and
funny.
I cleared the land. So it's like, here we go. Another, always something. And so, but we keep to ourselves and do our own thing. Though.
Yeah.
It's like,
And where are you guys? Are you in?
yeah, we're right across the street from Blue Valley High School.
Okay.
And she just got a job teaching at Overland Trail Middle School.
What was this business about not taking highways?
Oh, I love the city. I kind of like take my time, drive through old areas, whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I'll be honest, it's faster just to drive through the city than
Sure.
it is to take a highway. And even when I bid jobs, unless I have to, not that I'm afraid of it, I just,
Right.
I like driving through the city.
Yeah.
You drive all day. You like to change it up a little bit. So
That's cool.
I don't know. I like to see different things,
So when you shared your records with me, you were also sharing some memories or stories of partying with some band people. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. When I was backstage with Devil City Angels.
Okay.
Yeah. I went down. It was down at the oh my God, the place down in Merriam. What's that little bar?
Claret Club.
No, it's right next door. It's on the tip of my tongue right now. But anyways, it was Tracy Guns from LA Guns.
Right.
Ricky Rocket was the drummer. Eric Brittenham from Cinderella is the bassist, and Brandon Gibbs was the new singer.
Wow.
And great band, loved it, absolutely loved it. I said, hell, I'll buy the backstage pass. Just screw it. I love those guys, and brought us back in the bus, and we're partying with them, and it just was just a good time talking to like regular people. And
That's cool.
It was really cool, and I was telling Ricky, I was like, yeah, we saw Brett, wasn't very impressed with Brett at Lake of the Ozarks. The girl's getting beat up right there, and he won't stop the waitress getting the hell kicked out of her, and he wouldn't even stop the show. And
By who?
just a bunch of drunk guys started beating the hell out of her. We're all trying to get to help her. It's a Lake of the Ozarks.
Beating the heck out of a
Yeah,
waitress?
yeah, just beating her.
What in
And
the fuck,
Brett
man?
wouldn't stop.
Brett Michaels poison?
Yeah.
Wow.
And matter of fact, we stayed the next day to see Cheap Trick, and Robin Zander is like, oh, I heard Brett's a real wiener, and he's like going off on Brett because everybody heard what that waitress got beat up bad, and we couldn't get. I mean, it was so packed because at the Ozark there's no really seating; you just stand there.
Yeah. Do you watch the show Ozark?
What's that now?
Have you?
No, I've never seen that show.
Okay.
Everybody said to watch it. I've never seen that, but
There's a like a fundraiser blah 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 where they bring Cheap Trick.
That was awesome. That was so much fun. And then I partied with Jesse from Jackal.
Okay.
We were at when they brought the Sturgis show here to the river. Remember down the riverfront down there when they were trying to do that show with Michael, the Ballard, the Full Throttle Saloon. Remember they would do that show on TV. They would do a Full Throttle Saloon from Sturgis, so they tried to bring it here for Johnny Dare's birthday.
Oh, okay.
And I met him one time too. I knew him several times.
Were you impressed?
No. He liked me at the time because at the time, digital music wasn't out.
Okay.
And he's a music lover like I am. And when I was working at Waldo Pets, we were setting up his stuff.
Waldo Pets.
And when he found out what I had in my collection, he's like, he called me several times to get together so he could copy the music because I had the stuff. He was missing a lot of stuff. He had a lot of stuff, but I found rare stuff. I'm like the garage sale guy. I can find something that,
sure.
And so we talked, but he was there, and Jesse's like, oh, I don't want to talk to anybody, right now I'm busy. I'm like, hey man, I own a tree business. He goes, oh, you're a lumberjack? And I said, well, yeah. And he goes, well, get over here. Let's have some fun. So we started drinking and hanging out at Throttle Fest.
You and Johnny Dare?
No. Jesse Dupree from
Okay.
Jackal.
Okay, my bad.
No, Johnny, he's different because I would often drink with, it's so weird, LJ from Seven Dust.
Okay.
His kids go to Blue Valley by us.
Okay.
But you'd never know it because he'll go up to Tanner's, sit there and have a beer. He used to. I don't know if he's still here in town anymore. One day I walked up to him, I said, hey, LJ, what's up, man? And we started talking, and he's like, how'd you know who I was? And I said, well, how often do you see a black man in dreadlocks sitting in a white bar at Tanner's? And I'm like, and I said, you're the nicest guy. I was hearing the radio. So we started talking, and he likes antiquing, go to antique shops, so do I. So we hit it off. And so we're like, let's heck up. But when he heard I wasn't fond of Johnny Dare because I'm not a Johnny Dare guy, I think he's fake, and I hate when people give him stuff when he's got plenty of money. It drives me nuts. And so I think we kind of, because I'd see LJ at concerts, whatever, we talk, me and Ashley would talk, and then I tried to call him a couple of times, and he just didn't answer anymore. So I was like, he's probably mad about the Johnny Dare thing, which I could care less. So
man, I'm living in Colorado until like March of 2000, and I come back as one does for the holidays every year, and I'm out night before Thanksgiving in 99, I think it was 99, and out with a whole bunch of old friends, and one of the girls, Melanie Markison, we went to kindergarten together.
Yeah.
She brings a friend that also went to kindergarten. We went to kindergarten at Sequoia at 83rd and Lamar. And
my God, yeah.
And it closed
the
year when we finished. And this other girl, had kind of like, I don't know if she was in grade school and then Mission Valley, and then she was elsewhere. But on this night, anyway, we hit it off and we start dating. And she's living in Atlanta, but she's also in town for the holidays. And so we both moved back to Kansas City to pursue this relationship.
Yeah.
And she gets a job was it Intercom?
Yeah.
And so I guess Johnny was a pretty big fan of hers and would not follow her around, but all the time be like, what's up with you and I? And she's like, I got a boyfriend. Oh, really? What's his boyfriend's name? And she's like, it's Blair. And he's like, Blair? Mm-hmm. That sounds real burly. So there was a stretch where he would always be like, what's up with Burly Blair? Does he have a big old dick? And so like at first I was like, oh, weird. And then it was like kind of comical. And then after a while, it's like, this dude sounds like a fucking tool. Like
he is,
but lots of people like him. They're used to back then. I didn't ever
we used
get
to call
it.
up him all the time when him and Treetop Dave first started it back in the day when it was 98.9. When the Z-Rock and all that stuff, we'd call them up and they were cool then because they needed fans then.
Yeah.
Then he turned into a total dweeb. I mean, Bob, his manager, the one that wears the beard and everything. You see him every now and then. He's the one that runs Intercom. His kids go to Blue Valley. I would see Bob at the football games, and he looks like a freaking hermit. I mean, it's like a. I mean, he looks. He got this whole beard across his face. I mean, it goes up to his eyes. It's like needs to be shaved. It's like, dude, trim yourself up.
Right.
He is so creepy weird. He looks like a flasher or something you'd see, and he has no personality whatsoever. You try to talk to him, and he just stares at you.
And then how many bars did he have? 2 different bars that he tried to open?
He had several different
in
ones.
Westport.
And people don't understand.
Like
he has
actual...
an agent. He had a Hollywood agent. That means he makes plenty of money. And nothing would irritate me more when people who were like hands-on, hardworking people would like, hey man, let me donate this to you for your property or donate this. And it's like, why are you doing that? He makes plenty of money to buy stuff. Here, this guy's barely getting by, and he donates it. I'm like, and I was done with him after that. I was like,
well, speaking of which, so, you know, we talked about following this, like, oh, this we're high school, college, job, married, how, and you know, you learn from a lot of your own mistakes along the way and mistakes of other people in your life, and I feel like eventually you get to this point where, obviously, you still. I mean, hopefully you don't become one of these people that has kids out there in the world that you don't communicate with. You obviously will always love your kids and want the best for them and hope that they're safe and happy and anything you can do for them. But at some point, this whole thing to me seems to be about like maximizing the moments in which like joy is kind of being pumped into your life. And so tomorrow, if somebody just on your doorstep hands you like literally more money than you could count, like whatever you're going to do, even if you're now like super lavish jet setting, you've got so much more money than you can spend and your kids are going to be taken care of. What do you do with yourself? Like what, you know, some people, one dude said I'd probably just be surfing in Mexico. Some people say travel. You know, I mean, what gives you joy? Like
Steph and I always want to get a farm.
Okay.
Somewhere, and like I want to raise buffalo.
What?
And I want to raise alligator snapping turtles like my buddy does. He's like the world's top provider.
What?
Of alligator snapping turtles. And I mean, other people are doing it now, but he was the first guy.
Where?
He's a Kansas City boy, and now he lives in outside of Springfield, Missouri.
Okay. Alligator snapping turtle.
Yeah, he hatches out, goes and collects the eggs, hatches out the babies, and ships them all over the world.
What? How did he land on? Like, what was the draw?
He was a chef, and he just he went down. He loved them as pets. You know, they get huge and they're like dinosaurs. And he just he had to go down to Louisiana because that's one of the last places you could go get them as adults because they take forever to grow.
Sure.
Grabbed a whole bunch and started raising. Put them in a little pond. It's cool. He's invited me in, and we were there one time, and we started talking about Kansas City roots a little bit. You know, and it's helped me 1,000 times, man. And he goes, my son Siler was with me, and I go. I'm like, hey, I want to buy a big one. He goes, you know, Dave, I don't sell the big ones because that goes back to my breeding program. I sell you a baby, or if you have something too big, I'll give you a new baby and trade you because it takes forever to grow them. And I said, hey, Siler, look at this one. He goes, wait a minute, why are you calling him Siler? And I said, well, that's my son's name. He goes, well, how did you get that name? I said, well,
Siler's the second oldest?
He's my oldest.
He's the old, and then the other three's names are?
Siler, Taylor, Riley, and Gannon.
Gannon as in Rich? Spelled the same way? Rich Gannon?
No, it is Ganon.
Okay.
So I actually had a different name at the time, but never tell people when you're having kids names because somebody took the name, and I'm like, God dang it, you know. And so
wait, so this dude asks why you're calling him Siler?
Yeah, so we're sitting there, and he goes, well, that's his name. It's my ex-wife's maiden name. He goes, well, my dad's best friend was Frank Siler. I go, that's his great uncle. And he goes, go pick whatever big one you want. I'm like, sweet. So we've been friends since. I mean, it's just.
Do you still have this animal?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
At your home?
Oh yeah. It takes a while.
How big?
Oh, it's only about that big right now.
And what does it live in?
In the summertime, it goes into a big pond out in my backyard, a big stock tank. I have it, lily pads and everything, and put bluegill in there.
Really?
And in the wintertime, it comes down because you can actually make them go dormant in the wintertime. So I bring it in and put it in a little tub full of water, and I'll feed it lettuce because they go vegetarian when they get older. They go strictly vegetarian. He's the one that discovered that, so John did. So,
I mean, does it sounds like it's relatively easy to look after?
It is. It's
Okay.
just patience. If you want to make a business of it, which I don't
Oh,
care. I just want
right.
to. I just want to do that. And then my other buddy raises buffalo, and I want to be out in the woods. I mean, and Steph wants to teach in a smaller town. It's something we want to do. But I mean, to me, money's. I mean, you got to have it, but to me, money's not a big deal.
Right.
I've been burned so many times and taken from me so many times. I'm like, as long as I got enough to put food on the table and take care of the ones you love,
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean,
So what else would go on what would like vegetable like what else would go on this farm?
well, I mean, I'd love to have, like I said, that and have some cattle and stuff like that, and have a
Okay.
lot of land and
And you would be responsible for these cattle, or would you
yeah.
have somebody?
No, I do it, and I've always wanted. I love to hunt, and I love my. It's really weird to say. My joy now is to teach young people how to do it, to take interest in it, and
Cool.
help them do it. I love doing it. My
Cattle is like the opposite of the turtle. Like they require a lot of work,
they're
don't
not.
they?
Yeah, they're a little bit more work, but like I said, that's why I want to do that. My buddy raised the bison. They pretty much take care of themselves. They're pretty self-sustaining. That's why that maybe some longhorns.
What's the are they at one point weren't we worried about their numbers on this
Not
continent?
anymore. It's so prolific. They're from what he's learned, they're the most amazing animals. I mean, they just like the other day, he had to put some down because you never have more than one bull per herd for his herd. And he always puts down a couple cows every year. Either it's a cow it's not producing very enough or whatever, or it's a cow getting older, and that's we'll split meat. And
Is that always what happens with the animals that get put down? Is that the meat goes to somebody that's
oh
gonna?
yeah, you want buffalo meat? Yeah, and it's good.
I'm sure.
This new bull he has did not like it that his cows were being shot, and he plowed through the fence and kept plowing and kept plowing and plowed through the woods. I mean, that's how big these animals are, magnificent. Nothing can get in the way. And they're going. And
So it's gone.
he got it back. He did it twice, and he each time had to take a gun with him because he was lucky to get it into the trailer. But sometimes they don't want to go to the trailer. You got to put them down.
Well, that's what I was going to say next. If you're a person that raises buffalo, are they like always just cool with humans being around?
They'll tolerate you, but
Tolerate.
it's I like the fear, the respect is really cool when you're around them, whatever. But
That's wild.
it's cool, man. I mean, they're a cool
He's
animal, man.
smart enough to know that he's putting down.
They are amazing, amazing animals.
Wow.
They're cool. And then some longhorn steers, what I really want because they're kind of self sustaining too.
Okay.
I really don't want any beef cattle where I have to, keep them up to weight so much. Whatever I want, you get some of the like buffalo and the longhorn. They can eat the roughage and they're just the buffalo be for meat, but the longhorn just for looks. I love them. They're just gorgeous.
Man, we've had some folks come and present to my sales force at my company, and they're like, what they do, their whole generations, what they do is raise steer,
Oh, yeah.
or bulls. I'm sorry, male cows.
Yeah, yeah.
And the somewhere in the like 9 to 13 month mark of the lifespan is like the prime
Yes.
spot, and it takes obviously that time from birth to get them, but the whole process, like there's a lot of variables that can just kind of sneak in and totally crater the whole thing to where like things are okay, we're paying our bills and everybody's healthy and we made enough so we can buy a new piece of equipment this year, and then the next cycle everything gets cratered and they're like, we might lose the house, we might lose and it's just like, what?
It's crazy.
And they just for decades they just keep doing it, and it's this huge gamble.
It is. I mean, but it's no different than business you and I do. It's just you get used to your gambles.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's,
true.
I mean, everything we do, it's just something you get used to, and you start learning to live your life for. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, you could have all the money in the world, but I have friends who have tons of money and they're miserable, man. I mean, they'll never admit it to you, but you can tell they're drinking and partying too much, and they're never happy. And it's like,
I would just like to have enough money to where I have a few people that handle things for me.
Yeah.
Like I would have a money person, and like I don't. Here's what I need for myself. Like, take this out to pay all the bills and do all the stuff, and then here's what I need to sort of like
I mean, just your basic needs.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then but aside from that, like I don't want to think about money.
But see, that's like okay. So I told you a good friend of mine that passed away that I ended up made me go visit my dad. He was in his 60s, and he'd been on his fourth marriage, and he grew up dirt poor in Oklahoma, ended up being a millionaire. He developed something for a nuclear water treatment plant, sold it to him, and right before he died, his ex-wife, they spent 5-6 years in court, and when he was done, he was back to being broke. She didn't get it, he didn't get it. They spent it all on lawyers.
Wow.
So he would take me out. He's
Round
the
of
one.
applause.
Well,
Jesus.
Well, he took me out. He's the one who took me out. He's the one that said, "Hey," because the way you and I grew up, you met your person in college, you got married, so dating was weird. And so he's like, "Hey man, let's go to the strip club." I'm like, "Because our kids were playing baseball together," and I'm like, "Hey, cool man." So he goes to the ATM. I still remember Mazuma Credit there on 135th. He pulls out $5,000. I'm going, holy.
Wait, I'm sorry. I thought you said strip club. Where
$5,000
to blow in a couple hours?
Yeah. So we go to the club.
Oh my god.
He's like, "Here, let me get this." I said, "No, I'm really weird. Don't give me your money. I can take care of myself." Well, we've been going to, so we ended up going to all the girls and knowing pretty much, and I dated a few of them, and he was getting mad because I never had to give him any money, and I was getting him to come home with me, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Well, first of all, you don't flaunt your money. Second of all, I'm not paying money for it. I'll go out and have fun with you." But I said, the ones that come there looking for the sugar daddy stuff, I just send them all the way.
Yeah, no thanks.
I said, "I'm not stupid." And I go, they're like poor salesmen. They're like terrible.
Yeah.
I had my fun, and then he his wives were all, his first one wasn't, but all the other wives he had were all the people he had affairs with.
Mm.
And I kept watching it, and I begged him, and it wasn't funny anymore because like he would do it, and I'm like, "Dude, please stop doing that." Because then he started dating moms on the team. I'm like, that's too close to home. The kids are involved, and let me tell you about something uncomfortable. When you're walking in a place, we were in the St. Louis Stadium. I'll never forget this. I got one guy here on my right. He's on my left. The guy on my right goes, "Hey, Dave, weird question. Do you know who's banging my wife?" "Well, it's my buddy." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know, Brian." I said, "I'll have to get back to you on that one." I'm trying to kill my buddy because I'm going, "You idiot, I told you don't put me in this." I mean, it was just like.
How did he know if someone was?
I don't know on that one. But when I got out there in that world, I was amazed how many people were having affairs on each other. It was kind of disappointing. It's like, does anybody even... I mean, if you don't like each other, just get rid of each other.
Yeah.
I'd rather be poor and be happy than to be with someone to be miserable and cheating and hiding your whole life, I hate it because I busted mine several times doing it, and I got to beat some ass. It made me feel better.
Right.
You have I'm just like...
Any ink on your body as a... I kick the shit out.
No, I mean, it's just... I know that family. I just say... it's nice to know that even after all these years, when I go into a bar and he's there, he packs up and leaves. Still to this day. He didn't even live in town. He'll just... All of a sudden, we'll be there. I'm like, "How's it going?" And he will finish his tab, and he is out of there. Now, like, keep in mind...
He thinks there's another one coming for him?
My ex-wife went looking for trouble, too. So it takes two to tango. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
But, it's just... I had fun for a while. It opened up my world, and that's what I was like, man. And that's why when I was dating, I was like, watch. I said, "No, if you're separated, I want no part of it because clearly you have to take care of your problem yet. You take care of your problem, come talk to me."
Yeah.
I mean, I used to get pictures sent to me on dating sites. It's like, "Well, I didn't ask for these pictures, but thank you." But I said, "We got a problem here." I go, "I'm, not the smartest bulb on the tree, but these two pictures match and these two pictures match, but these 4 pictures don't match together." So I had one girl one time. You'll love this because you grew up in town with me too. "Yeah, I'm 20-some years old. I live at 127th and Mission." I said, "Really? You live in a 5-6 bedroom house by yourself in early 20s. Yeah. Really?" I said, "You make a lot of money?" "No." "Well, that's kind of impossible because that's about $700,000-$800,000 house." And I said, "Has your family got money?" No. "Do you want to start telling me the truth now, or do you want to wait till I bust you on a bigger story?" And I said, "Because your pictures are fake and everything else is fake." "Well, do you want to go out?" I'm like, "Not really. I could care less."
Yeah.
And I said, "I don't know if you're a dude, for all I know."
Yeah, right.
And but you know what? My buddy, I love him to death, and he passed away. Matter of fact, we were at the funeral. We were kind of chuckling away. All these women are coming. We're like, "I wonder how many are our mistresses," because he had a lot, and he loved life, but he had 4 generations of kids. It kind of sucked. The first 3 generations were butt poor. The last ones were filthy rich, and they went from being filthy rich to having nothing, and now they're scrambling. So, and I would never take money from him. As a matter of fact, we became friends. He was racing. He goes, "This guy won't leave me alone. Will you come to the races with me? He keeps bullying me." And I said, "I'll come." That guy saw me, and we didn't have any more problems after that. And that's how we became friends. And I said, "You didn't have a good time watching him race too."
Wait, he's going to the races and somebody's bullying him?
Him and his son had a race car, and they would race.
Okay.
Little dwarf cars.
Okay.
And one of these guys, just a rowdy guy, that kept getting in his face and causing trouble. And my buddy was not a fighter; he was
For
a
no
businessman.
reason.
There's some people that
But
just have
but
chips on their
but
shoulders.
but I mean, all the people that are going there because they enjoy racing.
This guy was a racer, and he was just mad that he couldn't afford what he could afford on cars.
Oh.
And some guys are just like that, man.
Okay.
You know, some people have chips on their shoulders that you kick their butt, they'll never get rid of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they probably don't even know why it's there.
It's best just I would walk away.
Yeah.
You're never gonna fix the problem.
Like the bad business proposal,
It's just
the sketchy. Hey, this is how I want you to do this. No.
you just walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, I've learned it's okay to say, hey, we're just not a good match.
Right.
So I mean, you know how it is.
Yeah.
So it's just if I'd met Steph, I was pretty much done for a while because I'm like, dating was hard too. I mean, you're running this. I said, hey, my kids come first. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
My kids are important to me.
Yeah.
If you can't accept that, can't do anything about
Dude, like, I mean, if, the other person isn't saying that, like, there couldn't be a bigger red flag than somebody who has kids, but they're kind of like second
I had that
tier
one. It was
to
before her.
finding a person or what, dating. Yeah. And the kids, it's like, no. Dude.
I had that person. I couldn't get rid of her. She went down to the apartment complex and got on my lease, which I was furious. It's illegal. I couldn't get her out of there. She would tell me, your kids need to go with their mom and you need to let it go. I said, no, sorry. You only have one chance with your kids. And her kid was older.
That's
and
crazy.
And I said that. I said no. So she got the boot.
Good.
So, but I had to spend a little money to do it because I had to go, because I was buying a house that I have now. And I didn't want her to come, but I didn't want her in the apartment lease with my name on it because she could destroy it. I'm screwed. I mean, I'm liable. So I said, I'll tell you what, I want to take care of you the rest of my life. And she's like, you do? And I said, yeah, find an apartment and I will sugar daddy you. And she goes, you would? And I said, absolutely. So we went to the apartment complex. I had to eat $500 for a down payment. I said, okay, sign the lease here. She goes, okay. She was going to sign it. I said, no, you need to sign it. You make enough money. She goes, okay. I said, now I need you to come over to this other apartment complex and sign the lease to get off of it. She goes, okay. As soon as that ink was dry, brother, I was like, you're psycho, you're nuts. I want nothing to do with you again. And I said, get out of my life. And she called my mom. She harassed me for months until she finally moved out of town.
How long ago was this?
I want to say Steph and I got started dating in 2015, so around 2015. So
Jesus.
I was thinking, hey, she's 40-some years old. Her son lives in Arizona, self-sufficient. She has no dad. What's wrong with this picture? It's too good,
Mm-hmm.
And then she would sit there and she'd be messaging her exes, her ex-husband, her ex-boyfriends, which I like having friends, and I have no problem with it at first, But I'm like, why are you private messaging him? Why aren't you just texting him? To me, that's a red flag. I go, just text him. And she goes, no. And I said, well, if you're private messaging, then someone's hiding something. And I said, that's not a good sign.
Right.
And I don't like that.
Yeah.
And
there's people, not a lot of them, but every now and again I come across, somebody and like their go-to is to like hit me on Messenger. And I'm always like, can we be adults and text? I don't understand
I always try to do it because I hate Messenger. Yeah. And I always try to get the phone to do it. Some people just... And sometimes I'll lose phones. Like somebody will, like, I'll have somebody put all the phone numbers at the office in my phone, and sometimes I'll erase somebody on me, and I got to go message them to hunt them down. Like, hey, I need that number again.
Yeah, I know. I think we all use Messenger in varying degrees, but as the primary,
I try to wean off of it if I can.
Yeah.
And sometimes I accidentally just keep doing it. Like I got a really good friend, and he for some reason he just doesn't want to text. I mean, he's just a younger generation. It drives me crazy.
I had an old customer today message me on Messenger. And he's like, hey, man, it's so-and-so. I have a question for you. And I was like, the very first thing I said was, you don't have my number anymore? And he was like, oh, well, I had to change my phone number. I was like, I know. I remember having this conversation, and I changed your contact in my phone. Is this still your number? And he's like, yeah.
Let's see.
And he's like, the only thing that pulls up for you is your email. I'm like, well, that's weird. And as I'm saying that, he's calling me through Messenger. And I'm like, what is happening right now?
I hate that. That's the worst thing.
What are we doing? Like,
I'll get those messages and all that stuff, and I'm just like, just message me normally. I mean, I got numbers of people. I just, it is what it is. And,
man. So a number of times you've said, I know so many people, and half of them owe me money, and
yep.
Like, have you just? If there's a list, if there's a list of people that owe you money, have you just like walked away from that and you're like, you know what, forget about it? Or
Sometimes you got to, man. You just
and then are you still
you start when you start doing work when you first have a business. I'll be honest with you. You're like, I'm going to help you out. You help out your friends, okay?
yeah.
And I've always told people like I'm Old City. I still visit like Greg at Pet Stop or George Nigro. You know, I don't go them for a discount because they're small business. They're part of Kansas
Yeah.
City. I give you my
Yeah.
business because I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
And I said that's not supporting small business. And I started helping them out. Half of them wouldn't pay me or owe me money forever. And it's like, you know, I've got kids too. You know, I hate when
Yeah.
someone tells me that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I got kids too, man. You
Yeah.
know, we went to Catholic school for a while, and the Catholic school burned me.
I got a lot of kids.
Well, but I mean, the Catholic school even burned me. You know, I'm sitting there. They would ask me at St. Thomas More to donate the tree work, but another guy who's a filthy rich family there who was going to Nativity, they were paying him top dollar, and he was actually taking advantage of the money and stealing money, and they were paying him top dollar. And they'd ask me, I said, you know what, go to him.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
And I
So,
go,
but of all these relationships you have where people owe you money, are you still in each other's lives? Do you see them? Is that super awkward?
a few people will say something every now and then. I'll be like, hey, you ever gonna pay me? I mean, we can do. I mean, I got one guy who was out on. He makes me mad. He was on TV with Tyreek Hill handing out stuff in there for the football game. And they're all talking about what a great guy he is. And I posted something. I'm like, yeah, he owes me $4,000. He's a deadbeat. And I ran to another guy at a birthday party, at Kevin Miner's daughter's graduation party the other day. And in small world, this guy knew my buddy. And he's like, oh, that was his girlfriend doing it. I said, even if it was his girlfriend, he still could have said, Dave, I'll make it right to you. Let me do this for you. Even small payments or something, make it right for you. He didn't. He had that option. He didn't do it. He flat out told me I didn't hand him an invoice, so it wasn't any good. I said, really? I've been coming to you for how many years for working out? You never handed me an invoice. And I said, I paid your bill. And I said, I helped your mom out. I've helped you out 1,000 times. And I go, I'm sick and tired of you calling me a rich Leewood boy. I said, I don't live in Leewood. And I go, not everybody in Kansas is filthy rich. And I'm sick of it. I go, you make better money than me.
Right.
And it's just stuff like that. I mean, that's why trade outs. I used to do trade outs all the time. It's like I rarely do trade because that was another thing that burned me out. The HVAC guy owed me. I did him and his dad. He owed me a brand new unit, and he was a great guy. And all of a sudden, he wouldn't return me.
No.
Finally, I'm sitting there going, and he owed me more than what it was worth. Because he gave me a price, and I wrote it down because I was smart. So then he tried well, mine's cost more now. You owe me money. I said, no, I wrote it down the first time. Wrote your quote down. Nothing's changed. So then he didn't call me back anymore. So finally, I started him papers. And he calls me and goes, can we talk? And I said, do you really think I want to sue a friend? I go, what is wrong with you? Just get over here and get it done and we're good, man. I said, what? I've referred people to you. What is wrong with you? Well, he got into another business venture and kind of shit on everybody. And it's like, can't do that, bud.
Dude, I struggle so much just managing the calendars, like practice and games and got to buy gear and sign up for this camp and then job stuff and then this stuff. I can't like I have no bandwidth. I have no room for others. I can't imagine carrying with me that I owe this dude money and I owe this gal
So you're
money.
like me. But
Like-
I've also learned to let it go because I'm like you. I do so much stuff with the kids. That's why I'm kind of having a problem now with my older kids did so much sports. We were constantly traveling. I mean, I'm constantly every night doing something. Now I'm not. And I feel like something's missing. So it's like I need to get back into my hobbies, learn how to play guitar again. I got tons of guitars, learn how to start playing them and start doing stuff differently again, and
Well, that's how I pictured your life to be. So when I hit you up and I was like, yo, I totally forgot about this dinner that I'm doing. I thought we were going to be looking at, 2 months and you're like, I can do it the following Tuesday. I was like, sweet.
It's like I'm getting some time to do stuff I want to do.
Yeah.
But it's like, but I've learned to let stuff go. And I think it's after the divorce. Stop hating on people. It's like, you can't do it. You can't change people.
Right.
It doesn't pay my bills.
All you soon to be wives out there, you can't change people.
You
Don't marry a dude thinking you can.
You can't. And my son's going through it right now. His girlfriend broke up with him. We loved her to death, but because she wants him to move to Minnesota. I said, you need to have that talk now. And I said, that's not a place you want to move right now. It's not a good area right now. It's got problems. And I said, you don't have to move to Kansas, but that's probably one of the worst places to move right now. And he had the talk, and I said, and he's been talking to her. I said, buddy, don't do something for somebody else. I go, it should be a partnership. It should be,
Right.
hey, let's both make a sacrifice.
Right.
And I said, just because one doesn't want it doesn't mean they're a bad person.
Right.
And I said, that's what people need to understand, and it's like, but I've been burned by my parents have stolen money from me. I've been burned by my ex's parents stole so much money from me. It's not even funny. And they burned me bad. I made it.
somehow here you are.
I made it, and I used to complain about it. It's like, man, give her the negative energy. It's like, I mean, I have my moments. Don't get me wrong, I have
Yeah.
my moments, but it's like I have so many good things that happen. I come across, I get to see you. I get to come across people I haven't seen forever,
Sure.
and it's like some good memories. It's like, man, let's just do this.
Right.
Don't worry about it. I have luck all the time. I'll come across something that's like, oh man, that's awesome, or I get to see something that's cool, and I'm pretty happy with my life the way I've lived it. It's been a rocky thing, but I don't think I'd change anything. It
I
is
know.
what it is.
I know.
I had somebody the other day ask me, they wanted me and Steph, we were laughing our butts off. They wanted to go out. What'd she say? She and her husband were separated, but they didn't want people to know that on Facebook, so they were still living together. Because she was a model in KC and she's a fashion designer, and they had the 1.1 kids, perfect kids, and the beautiful kids. And I'm laughing, and I go, but don't you want to be happy? I go, we're almost 50. Go be happy. She goes, no. She goes, we're trying to redate each other. Would you guys go out with us as a perfect marriage couple? We just started laughing our ass off. I go, we fight. We'll cuss each other out, and then we're best friends. I mean, we are absolutely best friends. And I said, we both realized take time off from each other for a minute.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be mad.
Yep.
And we both have our quirks. We're not going to change them. And we've learned each other. We've learned to push buttons. We were laughing. We're like, sure, we'll go out with you. But we're probably not the perfect example because we're not the fairy tale. We'll tell you. Matter of fact, everybody gives me crap because I'll tell you forward what the problem is. I don't have time. I'm like Kevin, my cousin.
Right.
I think you're a jerk. Say, hey, you're a jerk, man. I don't care.
Right.
It is what it
Did
is.
you go out with them?
No, we never went out with them because
Oh.
I said, it's so stupid. It's not even funny. It's like, I can't stand fake people. I'd rather you tell me, hey, Dave, I can't stand you. I'll be like, hey, man, I love you. I respect you.
Right.
You said it.
Right.
When you bluff me, I can't stand it,
Yeah, man.
especially when you know it.
Yeah.
But who wants to live that life? But that's what a lot of people live, man.
I mean, it's the same to me as like walking around knowing every single day they owe these 3 people money from shit that was 15 years ago. That would make me
Yeah, but
crazy.
think about how we were growing up, because like you're rare too, like me, because getting a divorce back when our parents did was a no-no back then. That was a
Right.
dirty secret. You didn't
Right.
brag about it.
Well, I mean, I took shame in a suitcase to Atlanta with me. Here I am, new kid at school. I have a stepdad and a dad and
you
a
were
step.
bad. You were bad. You didn't talk about it.
Yep.
Family stuck together more back then, and I think social media's kind of ruined things now because it's like, oh, my bread can be better on this side instead of just, oh, maybe you guys, everybody goes through a little spell, hang in there.
Yeah.
Now it's just like, it happens.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
And I wish people would realize you're only making the lawyers money. You're not doing anything to each
Right.
other.
Well, and also like I've had this conversation with my kids a bunch, and I think they're like at least considering believing me on this, but I've told them, I know it hurts right now that we're, in separate homes and dating and whatever, but we have your best interests and we're kind of getting along.
Yeah.
And that is so much better than if we were under the same roof and fighting all the time. And they say, no way, we would totally take the fighting. I'm like,
Yeah, it's not healthy.
until you're 40 and then you realize like how much damage living with that fighting did,
Yeah, and I was the same way. I would tell them, hey, we both love you. And I said, we may not get along. And I said, just because we didn't make it doesn't mean you won't have normal relationships.
Right.
I go, everybody's different.
Right.
And I said, it's just a way of life. And I said, it's a new adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, we're nervous. We haven't done it before either. And I said, we're learning as we go.
Yeah.
It is. And it's a lot better. But see, you and I talk more to our kids than our parents talked to us back then.
Right.
It was none of your business. Shut up. You take what you get. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was tough back then.
Yeah.
I think that's why I was able to adapt. Somebody being a latchkey kid, I saw how other families were. I saw some families that had so much money, they were giving everything to them, and I'll be honest, those kids are still miserable today and not doing very well. I've seen some of the poorest families. They make great families. Brett just got divorced. He got married later than any of us. He just got a divorce, and I was kind of giving a little advice on dating. I'm like, hey, man, even though she said it's okay, I wouldn't bring the girl around and get any kids for a while, and I kind of keep it to yourself for a while. And I said, because everybody, no matter what they say or not, it's hard to see somebody with somebody else you've been with so many years.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to give a little advice, and and I said, be cordial, don't rub anybody's face. And I said, I always do it the old-fashioned way where I introduce them, hey, I'm getting ready to bring around the kids. Here you go, because your kids lose respect for you, I think, if you keep bringing different people around your kids all the time,
Yeah.
and it is hard.
Yeah.
And you don't try to force one on them. You just let them kind of adapt to it, so whatever. So it's different. But I mean, and we have, my kids sometimes have problems with my wife now, and her kids have problems with me sometimes. It's just,
Sure.
hey man, I remember what it's like to grow up with a stepdad.
Yep. Yep.
So, matter of fact, I don't talk to my mom and stepdad because they're best friends with my ex-wife right now. And I think the person I miss the most is my stepdad because I enjoyed conversations with him.
Wow.
My mom, I found out the whole time was giving my ex information the whole time.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say money. That might information might even be
No,
worse.
she's giving her money too. Oh yeah, she gives her money too. And he used to make me mad. She would come and help me with the business and tell my ex I should be paying her $2,000, $3,000 a month in child support. And my ex thought the same thing too. You know what's funny about both of them? They would look at all the checks coming in, but not one of them would look at the bills going out. And I kept explaining to him, I could be making $1 million, but if it takes $990,000 to make that $1 million, then I'm only making $10,000. And I said, I wish you'd understand that. And I said, you've never once asked to look at the receipts.
Right?
Never.
So weird.
But you look at these checks hand over fist. I said, you got payroll, you got insurance, you have so many things you have no idea what goes on. Fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been my problem. So she stabbed me back. So when I went to go see Brent in Montana, I didn't have any phone. I get back, I got these messages like 1,000 and stuff. It's like, oh my God, you won't believe what happened. Your mom took the kids and wouldn't bring it back. She said those are her kids. I said,
wait,
really?
wait, what? Your kids?
Yes. So my mom would help me on weekends. When I got married, I said, hey, I appreciate everything you did. I got a wife now. We got to start to make a family. We got to make it work, and I don't need your help anymore. She goes, no, because all my kids were starting to get recognition for scholarships and stuff. And she's like, hey, I raised them. And I said, man, I spent many times in my grandma's house. My grandma never said that. I mean, you spent your weekends with your grandma.
Jesus Christ, man.
Oh, if I could write a book about that whole messed up family stuff, I could. But it's like, I've tried to make my kids as normal about it as possible. And I've always told them, you can have a relationship with your mom. I don't care. And I said, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I said, but my little one's having a hard time. She's brainwashed him pretty good. And it's pretty bad. She is the definition of parent alienating, but she says I am. It's kind of funny if you see. I'm always the one. Yeah, you need to do this, or hey, have you talked to your mom today? When he's with me, and he's like, no. I was like, you can text her, call her. I don't care.
Right.
What do I care?
Good for you.
Yeah. But I know what she does to me. So, but now her boyfriend though I could kill because he had sex with her in the bed with my son, and my son saw it, and that is why I wanted to kill that guy so bad. Still to this day, you don't do that.
Right.
Oh yeah,
man.
You don't ever do that. Oh yeah, I could write a whole story about that. So,
I think you got a couple stories.
Like I said, when I've lived life, I've lived life.
Yeah.
But no. And I love running to the old East Boys. I mean, I ran into some of the people from Blue Valley North. They said, Dave, you got to come to the 30th. I'm like, no, I have no desire to. And I said, if East has one, I'll go see everybody there because I still see everybody.
Right.
I mean, it's like I've never left.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you got to come. I'm like, I'll be honest with you, I don't talk to any of you. I talk to two of you. Everybody at East, Belinda and Indian, I still talk to everybody.
Right.
And I said, we still have something in common.
Yeah.
And I said, no thanks.
So what is the total number of ink projects on your body up to right now?
Oh, I don't even know anymore. This started as I got a new artist now, and it started as one side of my sleeve is things I've done in my life, like my animals I've kept and adventures I've done with hunting and stuff like that. And one says Ulf Hednar, which means it's Viking for being able to do something nobody else can, a warrior. So I've always,
Cool.
I did that, and then this is my Marvel. I'm a geek. This is my Marvel side. I love Venom, and so these are all my anti-heroes. They don't do stuff because they didn't do it for money. They do it because they got conflict in their head. I like it. I'm a geek. I collect Transformers and Godzilla, so I have all this side here, and then I've got my Devil City Angels girl right there, my rock and roll girl. Nice. That was their logo, and something happened where I'm so glad I copied it because something happened where they don't show it anymore. So I don't know if they got copyright infringement or something, but I couldn't wait to get it. And I got a buddy who you'd love him, man. He owns his own tattoo shop, builds bikes. I mean, he's got a quarter pipe in his backyard he just built.
What?
Oh,
nice.
He's our age.
Okay.
He does my ink, and he does my wife. My kids have him. My kids, I always make them say, if you pick it out, now think about it for about a week because that's going on your body and it's going to hurt to get it off.
My next question was, when did you get your first one, and are you still happy with it?
Yes, I got my first one was paw prints. I just got back in 2013 with my ex-wife after the divorce. We took one vacation to try to make it work. They shouldn't have given it to me. I was so drunk in Florida. I walked into the shop. I don't even know which it was, and he was a newbie. It was like 12 o'clock at night, and he gave me 4 paw prints for my kids. It's something I wanted. and I got it. Could not find the hotel as I went from hotel to hotel, saying, "Am I
God.
staying here?" And then I came back and got Mandalorian long before it became
No way.
famous. Yeah, I love Boba Fett. I've always loved Boba Fett.
My boy and I, we were really slow to get started, and then we watched a couple, and what a fucking trip! I mean, like
When Boba Fett comes in to shoot, you need to look it up on YouTube. I need to send you that link. So when Boba Fett came in to save him at the very end and got all his armor back and started saving the Mandalorian at the very end of that season, Boba Fett gets his gear back on.
yeah,
Someone put it to shoot to thrill.
nice.
I've got to send you that because
Well, so like the episode where he gets the thing up his nose
Yeah.
from the sand, the Tusken Raider,
Yeah.
and goes on this pilgrimage, and then comes back and like makes this. I mean, that is, I got goosebumps. That was, first of all, my boy's 8, so he gets scared and stuff. But so we paused for a second there, but then just this past weekend we watched a couple, and the Mandalorian comes back.
oh yeah,
And we were like, oh my God. And so then he was like, I feel like I need to see the end scene from episode 2 where, and like it's so weird when you see characteristics that match you versus, anyway, I'm super, super sensitive. And so the whole scene where Grogu is, Luke is shown up to save the day, and it's time for him to give Grogu to Luke. My boy is like in tears, and I'm like,
didn't you well up a little bit though when you saw because that's what we grew up with?
Yeah, 100%.
To see something like we never see.
100%. So,
dude, we went to Comic-Con. I had a picture of Jeremy right before he passed away that played Boba Fett in the films that you and I grew up in. I'm at Comic-Con. I'm buying every picture he got. I was so upset because he's so sweet because he's I think he's British or something. And I waited in line for 2 hours, and I get there and he's like, "Oh, I don't take cards. I take cash only." I'm like, "Ooh," and I'm like, "Can I please go to the ATM, get the money out?" Because I bought a ton of pictures and had him sign every one of them. That's what is in my basement too. I have Marvel headbanger stuff. I have
nice.
everything.
Well, I think it's episode 5, and all of a sudden, the Mandalorian's back.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool!" And then he gets fucking banished.
Yes.
I was
Lifted
like,
his helmet.
Can't he explain why he like? I was like, "Fuck those two, man."
That's the rule, man. It's
I
just, and that's what season 3 is going to be about. He has to go back and redo it. So
wait, what?
Season 3, he's going back to Mandalore to do the.
So that's as far as we've gotten.
Oh, it hasn't come out yet. It doesn't come out.
No. But in the Boba Fett, because there's 14 episodes.
Yes.
Anyway, and then so where we left off, and don't spoil for me, but he goes to see Grogu.
Yes.
And then he's like, "But I've come all this way," and what's her name? Ahsoka.
Yes.
And then the episode ends, and Luke's like, "You have to choose," and I was like, "What the? I'm fucking dying here, man."
It's tough, man. And I want to know where the correlation of is. How he's related to Yoda? What creature? Because he's not. Everybody calls him Baby Yoda, but he's not. I mean, he's that creature, but I'm hoping they'll fill in the blanks of how that happened.
So we kind of like picked up the pace because I was like, "Oh shit." May 1st, I was like, "Buddy, we got to get going with Boba Fett because Obi-Wan's coming out."
Oh, it's already out.
I know. Now
but he'd probably have a hard time. You'll laugh because you see some stuff. It goes back to the first movie you and I first saw in the theaters in '77.
Okay.
You got to kind of watch it and then go back and read about it to see what you missed. There's some things you'll miss, but it's cool. It's cool.
Man, that I still. Somehow this franchise, I know there's haters, but somehow this franchise always finds a way to like tap into,
because it's Jon Favreau.
Well, but I mean, I hated Sand People for decades, and then when I watched all the movies with my kids, they were like, I hate those people, and I was like, yeah, I hate them too. And now I'm like, wait, what? I actually
they're
really
misunderstood.
Yeah,
I know. That's cool.
And how like all of that used to be C, and that's just been dried up desert.
Isn't it crazy to think that George Lucas's warped and creative mind. He had all this written down, and they just couldn't
It's
get
crazy.
technology couldn't get to it.
I can't even wrap my head.
That's why he said he couldn't do it anymore because
Right.
he wanted to get on other stuff because technology hadn't caught up to what he was trying to do. I mean, it's so cool.
So
Because BB-8 was supposed to be R2-D2 back in '77.
nuh-uh.
Yes,
Really?
but the technology wasn't there
Yeah.
to make him be that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was devastated when he comes back and like all of those Tuscan I mean, just burned. And then I've always also thought that they like had a head wrap and like whatever that piece of, but maybe that's just what they look like.
Yeah, because they got didn't get disformed or whatever from the sea. There's something happened to them that they had to do that permanently, and they couldn't outrun her.
I don't know.
I've seen some explanations of stuff lately. It's like because you go back and forth. I never followed the canon, the legends. There's two different versions of it. I never got that deep into it. I have found in my life, it's like Thor. I loved it because I didn't know the story, so I liked it. The Spider-Mans I'm having trouble with because they keep running it because that's not the story. They keep messing it up. It drives me nuts how they keep ruining it.
So where we left off, the marshal, he's like, "All right, I'll help," and then that super creepy dude comes and who was that? Is that a Pike? Is that what?
God, who was
He
that?
He didn't look like the Pikes that were.
Yeah, I have to go back and watch it again because I've kind of because it's been I haven't seen that in a while. Because I liked Mandalorian better. I liked Boba Fett. I liked Boba Fett when he was in the Mandalorian, but I didn't like where they kind of took the series. It kind of
We're enjoying it.
they kind of lightened it up too much for me, and I wanted it to be the Mandalorian. The way it was like, oh my god! But see again, I know Boba Fett's story. I don't know Mandalorian story, so I like Mandalorian. You know what I mean? And if I don't know it, I look at a different approach. It drives me crazy when someone tries to change it too much.
Yeah.
Like Venom, I was a Venom freak long before Venom came along, and I hate what they did. The fact that they can't put that spider on because Sony owns the rights to him, it drives me absolutely insane. Because when Marvel was getting ready to break up, he sold a bunch of stuff, and then all of a sudden it became hot, and then that's why, certain characters aren't owned by Disney, and they're trying to get them back, which is cool. A lot of these artist families, they're in court right now to get the rights back before Sony, so they will have control of it again.
Wild.
So I'm hoping some of these artists get their family stuff back.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man may be up there and up there again. So
Interesting.
it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's cool. I love going to those things. But I was going to the last Comic-Con, but it was like, how much to get in? I'm like, I remember remember KC Mart out there by the Best Buy by 150th and Metcalf?
Kind of.
They used to have Comic-Con there.
Really?
And I took my son when they were your kid's age there, and we would go $20 to walk in, all these famous people nobody cared about then.
Right.
Because we were all having kids, we didn't care. And then to sit there and spend $150 just to walk in the door, and it's like, I don't need to see that stuff,
Nah.
So I would like to see Ralph Macchio and what's his name was there. That'd have been cool. Karate Kid, because I love what they've done that concept. That was cool.
What, Cobra Kai?
I love what they've done with it.
Okay.
It's kind of cool to see it kind of come back in a creative way to invent something that is different than what we saw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
But I like those outtakes and stuff like that, but I'm so fat. But I collect the new Transformers, the Godzillas, the old cartoon stuff. I try to collect that stuff.
Nice.
I just, I got made fun of it growing up, and I kind of hid it and didn't do it. And I'm like, yeah, why not do it? Screw it. Who cares what people think of you?
Yeah.
So everybody's got their little hobby.
Joy.
Yeah.
Finding joy.
That's and my kids. I love doing it with my kids. They like
cool.
doing it. So
that's cool.
Sports, I have a little hard doing some stuff. My kids like some sports. I'm like, I'm disappointed because a lot of these guys I've met and they're not nice people, and it kind of ruins my thing.
Yeah.
And I wish I never would have met them.
Right.
Like Derek Thomas and Neil Smith, and I can't stand Patrick Mahomes.
Really?
My friends at Ryan were taking care of the property before he bought it, and they come along, and that girlfriend, whatever she is, said, "We're not paying that kind of money. What do you think?" And it's like, here you are making more money than Fist. This is what they got to charge. It's a regular price. Doesn't matter who you are, and you're demonetizing them because you don't think it's worth it. But you have 80 closets full of shoes. You think that's your value. That's fine. But if that's your fine, but you don't sit there. I hate when people talk down to us. I'm done with you.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff drives me crazy. But my son's big into it. And I just like, some of your. I mean, I'm sitting there on the phone with the guy who owes me money. LeBron James is sitting there talking to him, and LeBron James is on speaker because I didn't believe it was, and he put him on speaker, and he's sitting there bad mouthing all of us, and I'm going, yeah, I'm done with you. Yeah, you just kind of different from the fans that we were growing up with. I like not knowing their backstory. So
Yeah.
know tons of Royals players from my kids playing baseball. Their kids play with my kids, so you're like, you're kind of a handful. The secrets I have on you, and it's like, you're kind of a jerk. So, matter of fact, a customer and I just hit it off because he played for the Nationals and the Royals, and I told him who I knew and what we knew, and we both thought the same thing. He's like, I like you. I go, I like you a lot because you're not like them. I said, yeah. One of them even threatened my wife to beat her up, and I can't wait till he comes in town. I get to have a little conversation. She was dating his partner in one of the baseball programs in town, and he ended up marrying her. He got married again, and he was marrying a trust fund girl, so he wanted to keep her here, and he was dating and cheating on her. And he thought Steph was telling, and it wasn't Steph, and so he threatened to beat her up and throw her down the stairs. I'm going, you don't threaten women, buddy. And
Dude, I mean,
I knew him very well. He's a drunk.
threatening a girl and beating up a waitress. What the hell?
Oh,
like God.
People are weird, man.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, that's why I've always taught my girls to be strong women. Don't take it. So you're just as strong as anybody else. You get dressed the same way we do.
Wow.
You just look better.
Listen, man, I got to wrangle those dogs.
Dude, this is awesome.
Thank you so much for giving me
Anytime,
time. I was joking with the dude that was on before you, like when that list gets a little bit longer, I might hit up a couple or three people to come talk about some records that we didn't talk about the first time around.
Let me know, man.
So,
Let me know if you need some other people to reach out to. I reached out to a couple buddies, man. They said they talked to you.
Yeah,
so.
you got me too. I wanted to get you on the books and done before I reach out to them, so they can at least, if they want to.
He's a great guy. You got to get Brad, man. Brad's he's getting ready to put another concert on again, man. He's constantly playing downtown.
That's one of the two dudes you sent
Brad
me.
Buckner.
Yeah.
Remember Brad? Brad's Casey Green, and he's going. He plays a lot of Mobley's place, the Ship.
Okay, right,
Yeah.
right.
That'd be a good place to even catch up with two guys. Brad, I love Brad.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just the sweetest guy in the world.
Well, cool, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
All
Appreciate
right.
it, brother.
Talk to you.
All right, buddy.